Peyton Manning's date with destiny is here. Now is the time for Manning to define his greatness and overcome his personal nemesis, the Florida Gators. 2 years ago, Manning was spectacular for a half. But a Vols victory was washed away by a second-half Gator deluge in the Florida swamp. Last season, redemption denied by a blitzing Gator D that left Manning buried and beaten. Today, one last chance for revenge, for glory, for victory against the Gators before the sun sets on Peyton Manning's career. Today is the day Tennessee and Peyton Manning make their statement in a bid for the SEC crown, the Heisman Trophy, and the national championship. For 4 years, Tennessee has lost to Florida, but Manning returned for his senior season in part to defeat the Vols' most bitter rival. Last season, Steve Spurrier and the Florida Gators celebrated a magical season, winning the national title with Heisman Trophy quarterback Danny Werfel. Now, newcomer Doug Johnson assumes the helm of the fun and gun offense as the Gators attempt to repeat as national champions. It's an SEC showdown, Tennessee versus Florida, next on CBS Sports. One last time, Peyton Manning will lead the Volunteers into the swamp to do battle, and the Gator faithful 85,000 strong will be waiting. The Florida fans arrive from all corners of the state to cheer on their Gators. It's a battle of the unbeatens between the Vols and the Gators, with the inside track to the SEC division crown and the path to a possible national title at stake. And if you're a college football fan, where else would you rather be than right here at the swamp where Tennessee takes on Florida? Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to NASDAQ College Football and CBS Sports. I'm Sean McDonough. It's great to have you with us. Over the last 4 years, Tennessee has been one of the most successful college football teams in the country, but they haven't been able to beat Florida, and as a result, they have not accomplished their major objectives of winning the conference and the national title. And I'm joined, as always, by Terry Donahue. Terry, this is a big day for the Volunteer team, trying to get over this hump, and it's become a bit of a mental issue as well. But for Peyton Manning, some say if he does not win this game, then his legacy will be diminished, that perhaps this is a defining moment for him.
Well, Peyton Manning has had certainly mixed performances against Florida, but there's more at stake than just the Florida game. Peyton Manning is a leading candidate for the Heisman Trophy. If he plays well here today, the trophy is his. If he doesn't, the race is wide open. But it's going to take more than just Peyton Manning for Tennessee to win. They've got to do two other things. They have to protect the football and avoid turnovers. In the last 2 years, Tennessee has turned it over 10 times against Florida. They can't do that today, and they've got to get some kind of a running game established to take some pressure off of Peyton Manning.
And here come the Volunteers onto the field here at the swamp, trying to win for the first time at this stadium since 1971. They are 2-0 with victories at home against Texas Tech and on the road 2 weeks ago at UCLA. Florida Gators, also 2-0, victories here at home against Southern Mississippi and Central Michigan. Florida coach Steve Spurrier said he expects this to be the loudest crowd ever at the Swamp, and if that's any indication, he might be right. He has an inexperienced quarterback starting today. In contrast to Manning, it'll be the sophomore Doug Johnson at quarterback for Florida, making his third career start all this season, and he hasn't played in a pressure-packed game like this yet.
Well, Doug Johnson just has to keep from losing the game, avoid the big crucial mistakes. He's surrounded by an outstanding offensive team and perhaps the best defense in Florida history. They're big, strong. They're going to stop the Tennessee running game with an 8-man front early, and then they're going to bring the heat on Peyton Manning and try to make him Gator bait today.
Speaking of heat, it's 95 degrees here in Gainesville. We head down to the field and join Michelle Tafoya.
All right, Sean, with Coach Phil Fulmer. Coach, 4 straight losses to Florida. You've talked about minimizing the turnovers and maximizing the running game, but what about the psychological hurdle? How have you prepared?
Anything to the psychological thing. I think we've got to protect the football. We've played 2 halves as good as they have. We just turned the football over. This should be a very exciting game.
Thanks, Coach.
As we mentioned a moment ago, a very warm day, 90 degrees at the moment. It's expected to get up to about 95 with the heat index up over 100. It's very muggy here, and obviously these two teams will need to be very careful about their substitutions and make sure the regulars get enough rest and the backups get some snaps. Steve Spurrier leads the defending national champion Florida Gators. 27th meeting all time between the two. Tennessee has the overall lead, but Florida has won 9 of the last 11. And as we mentioned moments ago, the last Tennessee win here in Gainesville was 1971. Philip Fulmer, the head coach of the Vols, was a player on that team. Florida won the toss and elected to receive. Bo Carroll. Steve Spurrier says he's the fastest player on the field today, a true freshman. He's back to receive the kickoff, along with Elijah Williams. Very little breeze as the ball game begins under partly cloudy skies. Jeff Hall, the junior from Winchester, Tennessee. And this much anticipated battle is underway. High kick down to the 5. Elijah Williams faked a handoff to Carroll coming in the opposite direction, and he got stopped short of the 20-yard line. Fred White among those in on the play.
Philip Fulmer said that they wanted to start the game by setting a certain tempo, and certainly in this particular case, Fred White, number 2, does exactly that with a big hit right here on the opening kickoff. That sets a whole stage for how the Volunteers are going to play this afternoon.
Steve Johnson was also on the tackle for Tennessee. Doug Johnson, a sophomore playing in his hometown. He's from Gainesville. Blitz on the first play, and the pass is too high. Intended along the near side for Jamie Richardson, and Johnson was knocked to the turf after he released the pass. Johnson's stats: he had a shaky game in the opener against Southern Miss, threw all 3 of those interceptions in that game, then came back with 7 touchdowns and no interceptions in the 82-6 squeaker over Central Michigan. He was a much more confident quarterback in game 2. Of course, the Chippewas didn't provide quite the opposition that Southern Miss put up in the opener. Fred Taylor, the lone back behind Johnson. He is the featured back this year for Florida. And they pitch it to Carroll on a reverse. And that play is stuffed. Steve Spurrier wanted to get to that play early, and it didn't work.
Well, one of the things you like to do, Sean, when you're in a big game like this, playing against a defense as fast as Tennessee's is, you want to go with screens, draws, reverses, and counters to slow down the flow of that defense. UCLA a couple weeks ago really hurt Tennessee with screen plays. Spurrier comes here with the reverse to slow that defense down. Even though it didn't work, it'll pay dividends later on in the game.
As you saw, Penn State did win the game against Louisville, seen earlier today here on CBS. Number 1 is still unbeaten. These two teams setting their sights on number 1, and Johnson forced to call a timeout already. A shaky start for the Gators. Back to Gainesville in a moment.
Its only competition is reality.
After the Florida timeout, 3rd down and 12. Middle screen snuffed out again by the Tennessee defense. Corey Terry dropped that play for a loss back to the 16-yard line. Terry Jackson thrown down. And it's Robbie Stevenson to punt. He's had an up-and-down career as the Florida punter, but Steve Spurrier said last year's 2 best games were at Tennessee and in the national championship game at the Sugar Bowl, so he thinks Robbie rises to the occasion in big games. He hopes that's the case again today. Line drive kick, but plenty on it. And no chance for Jermaine Copeland to return the punt. 45 yards and no return. Good punt by the junior from Bradenton. Peyton Manning with one last chance to emerge victorious against Florida. This is his 3rd game against the Gators as a starter. He did appear as a freshman in relief. 6 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. All 4 INTs were in the first half of last year's Tennessee loss at home when the Vols fell behind 35-0.
Sean, when you and I visited with the Tennessee coaches and players yesterday, they seemed so determined to win this football game.
Deafening noise on 1st down. Balls from their own 43. The blitz. Manning throws short. And he's knocked to the turf on his very first play. Intended for Peerless Price. Tony George had the coverage. The rest of the Tennessee offense, they've had a tough time running the ball with Lamine, the tailback, and Bryson, the fullback. 3 wide receivers set to open the game. Schuler, Nash, and Price. Trey Tigg, the center, is their best offensive lineman. Clifton at left tackle, another good one. Riley and Hamilton are the guards. And Robert Poole, the right tackle. It's a better offensive line than they had a year ago, but it's also a better Florida defensive front. To the run and nothing, a loss on the play. Mark Levine ran into Mike Moten and Javon Kearse. You saw Bob Stoops, the defensive coordinator. His front 4 is Tim Beauchamp, Ed Chester, Mike Moten, and Willie Rogers. Chester, the best of that group. Outstanding linebackers with Johnny Rutledge, Dwayne Thomas, and Mike Peterson. In the secondary, Elijah Williams is a converted running back. Tony George, Tigo Brown, and Fred Weary. Third down, 14. Back at the 39-yard line. No score, just underway. A flag down. The pass nearly intercepted. Mike Harris, who comes in dime situations, nearly picked that off in the near flat.
Sean, we've seen very early in this game Bob Stoops' defense. They've come into the game saying they are not going to allow Tennessee to run the ball. They're going to shut down the Tennessee running game, make Tennessee a one-dimensional team, and then bring the heat on Peyton Manning. In this first series, Manning has already had to feel that heat.
Change at punter this week for Tennessee. Chris Hogue, a senior who started the year as the backup punter, is punting today. David Leverton has had a very tough time. Had a couple of shanks last week against UCLA and misplayed a snap that went whizzing by his head as he was turning to call a timeout. Jaquez Green trying to get outside, and he is just tripped up at the 31-yard line. Corey Gaines prevented a huge return by Green because he had plenty of running room along the far sideline. No score here at the Swamp. No score, nearly 3 minutes played in the first quarter. Sean McDonough with Terry Donahue and Michelle Tafoya. Florida about to begin its second offensive series. Each team went in reverse on its first possession. The eye behind Doug Johnson. Terry Jackson lined up in front of Fred Taylor. And it's Taylor spinning ahead out to the 34. That's a gain of 3 on first down for the senior from Belle Glade, Florida. Taylor and Jackson the backfield. Aaron Kinney is the tight end, a more prominent player this year, with Jaquez Green and Jamie Richardson taking over for a couple of first-round draft picks. Zach Pillar, Ryan Kalick, Wiley Rich, Cheston Blackshear, and Mo Collins, the offensive line. Collins touched off a storm in the hype leading up to this game when he said that Peyton Manning is highly overrated. 2nd and 7. This time, plenty of time for Johnson. The home run ball is broken up. Outstanding play by Fair, but a flag is thrown at the 25-yard line. The pass intended for Jaquez Green, and he had a step. And apparently, Fair made contact as he tried to catch up.
Florida comes with the play action pass. They go deep. Terry Fair is one of the best defensive backs in America. He's covering Jaquez Green one-on-one. That is not interference. You've got to let a defensive back be able to go for the ball. The official who made the call was on the back side of that play. It was not a good call.
Saw Fair go to the sideline. He sat out most of the game 2 weeks ago against UCLA with a shoulder injury. And that's the reason he was not back to return the first punt from Florida. Ordinarily, he is their punt returner.
Boy, I hate to see a guy make a call like that early in the game, Sean. It isn't just a call that anybody can notice and see. This game is too important to these players and coaches.
15 yards from the line of scrimmage with penalty. Johnson has a man open. Caught. First down, 33-yard line. Travis McGriff belted down by Dwayne Goodrich and Corey Gaines, and Johnson was spilled after he delivered for a 19-yard gain.
Travis McGriff is the smallest player on Florida's offensive team. He's only 5'8", but he runs a crossing route in the middle of the Tennessee defense, and Doug Johnson delivers the ball, puts it right where he needs to. McGriff hangs on after a vicious hit by Corey Gaines, number 30.
Well, there are some questions about Doug Johnson, particularly how he'll react to a big game situation. There is no doubt about his arm strength. He can zip the football in there. Gators now on the move, 1st and 10 at the Tennessee 32. Terry Jackson has moved from tailback to fullback this year. Coach Spurrier says he is the best all-around college football player in the country. The Tennessee defense, Jonathan Brown, Billy Ratliff, Bill Duff, and Corey Terry, the front four. This season, Leonard Little has moved to middle linebacker from defensive end, but they'll line him up all over the place today. Al Wilson and Raynoch Thompson, the outside linebackers. In the secondary, Dwayne Goodrich, Torrey Noel, Corey Gaines, and Terry Fair. Fred Taylor, the lone back. He goes out into pass pattern. Johnson hit as he threw, looking for Green. It is caught. Terrific catch at the 10-yard line with Goodrich all over him. Johnson is getting pounded to the turf after virtually every throw, but his passes have been on target.
If anybody questions Doug Johnson's arm, they can forget it. He put this ball all the way to the far sideline. In college football, you need 1 foot down. Jaquez Green gets the foot down for the reception, but Johnson hangs tough in the pocket, doesn't wilt under the pressure of Leonard Little, number 1.
Green, the leading receiver, coming in with 10 catches prior to today's game. Johnson slipped as he threw, and it was nearly intercepted by Leonard Little. On the previous play, Little rushed. That time as the middle linebacker, he dropped into coverage, and as Johnson slipped, he threw it right to number 1.
At the start of the telecast, Sean, we talked about Doug Johnson has to avoid losing the game. He has to avoid those critical mistakes oftentimes inexperienced players make. That was one of them. He dodged a bullet right there. He threw the ball right at Leonard Little, but Leonard Little really is a converted defensive lineman. He doesn't have very good hands.
No. Florida has not even attempted a field goal this year. You saw their perfect mark in the red zone, 9 possessions, 9 touchdowns. So often they score from beyond the red zone on long scoring plays. On 2nd and 10 from just outside the 10. That one's nearly intercepted. The ball underthrown, and Raynoch Thompson had his hands on it as Johnson was looking for Terry Jackson in the corner of the end zone.
Doug Johnson scrambles out of the pocket. He gets a little pressure. He's been hit before. He moves around in the pocket well. This ball is really covered. That pass right there that's what I'm referring to. Don't throw that ball. Throw it out of bounds. Pull the ball down. Run it. Don't hurt your team with that critical mistake.
And another timeout called by the Gators, leaving them with only one here in the first half. Didn't look like Johnson set his feet at all that time, too. Kind of stumbled as he threw. And incompletion, so a big 3rd down and 10. They could get another first down, but it would be inches from the goal line.
Well, and remember, Doug Johnson, he's a young player. He's not been in a lot of big games. And early, Tennessee has been able to put some heat on him, knock him to the turf 2 or 3 times. So you get a little shaky in the pocket, understandably so. And all of a sudden, you start flushing out of there just a little bit early.
Well, Steve Spurrier reminded us yesterday this Tennessee defense was the best in the Southeastern Conference last year in virtually all of the major statistical categories.
And in certainly the most important category, Sean, which is the scoring category. Defense against the score. That's where you want to make sure you rank number 1.
Here are the numbers we were talking about from a year ago. First in total defense, and as Terry mentioned, more importantly in scoring defense at 14.3 allowed. Number 1 against the pass, and they were 3rd against the run. And they're up against a big spot here. Two tight ends and 2 wide receivers into the game as Johnson works out of the shotgun. Johnson to the end zone. Touchdown! Jamie Richardson. Collins Cooper is the place kicker. Out of the hold of Billy Young. The extra point is good. And Phil Fulmer and the Vols trail 7-0 here in the first quarter.
Steve Spurrier put Doug Johnson in the shotgun formation that time to take some of the heat off him, anticipating that Tennessee would blitz. Tennessee didn't blitz, but he had excellent protection. Jamie Richardson, number 18, is going to simply run down the field and hook up. Doug Johnson has a rifle arm. He just throws the ball on a line. Jamie Richardson goes up and pulls it right out of the air.
Certainly looked on that replay as if Richardson got away with a major push-off as he turned to make his break at the goal line. Peyton Manning remaining poised on the Tennessee sideline. Officially, that was an 11-yard touchdown pass. Johnson to Richardson. Jamie's a sophomore from Tallahassee, his 4th touchdown reception of the season. He had 5 catches all of last year. Of course, they had Ike Hilliard and Riddell Anthony at wideout last season, both of whom left school early to become first-round draft choices in the National Football League. Robbie Stevenson, the punter, kicks off.
You think about that drive, Sean. Florida was stifled on their first drive, and then they come roaring down the field. They are an explosive team.
Good kick by Stevenson. Levine will down it. 7 yards deep in the end zone.
One of the things you cannot do in college football as an offensive receiver, you can't push off a defensive back. The replay doesn't show it, but Jamie Richardson did indeed push off number 23.
Dwayne Goodrich.
Dwayne Goodrich. Watch him right here. He runs down the field. He just runs a little, pushes there with a shoulder, catches the ball. That should have been detected by the official. Clearly offensive interference.
7-0 Florida. They're right after Manning. And he throws on the run. Caught. Close to a first down. Caught by Peerless Price. At the 30-yard line, a defender out there slipped, and that made the completion a lot easier. It was Mike Moulton who was chasing after Manning. He went right by the center just as the ball was snapped.
The Florida front has penetrated the Tennessee offensive line on several occasions early in the football game. That penetration is going to not only disrupt Peyton Manning, it's going to disrupt the running game.
Moving along the line, flags down. With a second and inches. Levine driven back. And let's check out the flag. Terry, Tennessee has not been able to get a running game going in the first two games of the season, and it appears as if they haven't really tried that much. David Cutcliffe, the offensive coordinator, told us they're still looking for a running back to establish himself as the lead man.
Foul. False start on the offense.
I think when David Cutcliffe was talking about, they have a whole slew of tailbacks. They just haven't settled on who their main man is. It's hard to play with a committee at tailback. History would tell you, you want to have one guy step forward and take over that job. We
got the impression, talking to Coach Fulmer yesterday, that he thinks that one man might be Jamal Lewis, a true freshman who we will see in this ballgame. It's still Levine, the lone back. He takes the toss, eludes the defender, and has running room. First down and much more for the balls. And Levine was popped out of bounds by Fred Weary. 1st and 10, Tennessee. Let's check in New York with Jim Nance.
All right, Sean, it ended just a minute ago. A shocker in the SEC. Arkansas with 1:45 to go at Alabama. Clint Sterner to Anthony Eubanks. And Arkansas has upset the 11th-ranked Crimson Tide in Tuscaloosa. Back to Sean and Terry.
Wow. That is a shocker. I really thought Alabama would win their share of the conference title.
And the honeymoon is over for Coach DeBose.
Hey, the honeymoon ends in a hurry, Coach.
It does. Particularly in Alabama. Manning belted as he threw a completion. And into Florida territory goes Andy McCullough to the 45-yard line of the Gators. They follow up the 15-yard run by Levine with a 17-yard completion to McCullough.
Andy McCullough is a big receiver for Tennessee. He's 6'3". He's the guy that had the big game against Florida last year. He came out of nowhere, played extremely well. This is just an inside route. Peyton Manning did a wonderful job sitting in the pocket, taking the hit, delivering the ball.
Florida scored on its second possession. Tennessee trying to do the same here. There's Jamal Lewis, the true freshman of whom we were speaking a moment ago. He's close to a Tennessee first down at the 35-yard line. Tico Brown made the tackle, a gain of 9 for the true freshman from Atlanta, who had a prolific high school career, which invited comparisons to the great Herschel Walker.
Well, Jamal Lewis, number 31, the Tennessee people can't contain their enthusiasm for him. He was the most valuable player in the Georgia-Florida high school game this summer. He is a big 230-pounder, and he can run 4.4, 4.5. That's terrific speed.
Tennessee on the move. Florida leads 7-0 on 2nd and 1. They go to the air. They go deep, and it is incomplete. Marcus Nash looking for the completion from his best friend Peyton Manning, and Fred Weary, who plays the field corner, had the coverage.
John, it's amazing. All of a sudden, Tennessee, they get a couple runs going, And the Florida defense didn't come close to putting pressure on Peyton Manning that time. He had all day to throw. If you can coordinate the running game with the throwing game, you settle those defensive linemen down. They're not allowed to tee off on you like they like to when they know it's all pass, pass, pass.
Huge day for Manning as he led that comeback last year against Florida. It fell short. The final was 35-29 Gators before more than 107,000 at Neyland Stadium. But the big number, the 4 interceptions, got them behind the 8 ball quickly. There's a problem with the play clock. 3rd and inches upcoming for Coach Fulmer. Well, you mentioned as soon as Tennessee ran effectively, the defense backed off a little bit for Florida. Now, the one constant in this rivalry in the 90s, the team that has had the higher total of rushing yardage has won each game in this decade.
I know, and you think of both these teams as throwing teams primarily, but the team that can control the line of scrimmage. David Cutcliffe, in his conversation with us yesterday, said our guys have got to control the line of scrimmage. Thus far in the game, Florida has really penetrated the Tennessee offensive front, but on the last couple of plays, all of a sudden things have settled down a little bit for Tennessee, and that's a good sign if you're a Vol fan.
The play clock still is not functioning. It will be kept on the field. That can be problematic as you try to get the play off on time against these changing fronts. Manning keeps and uses his bulked up frame for the first down. He's getting gradually bigger in the weight program at Tennessee. Now 6'5", 222 pounds, and he's fired up as he picked up the first down.
And that was a great surge by the Tennessee offensive line against the Florida defensive line. Not only did he make the first down, but he surged ahead for 2 or 3 yards, followed the big center and guard, and all of a sudden that Florida line was on its heels. That's a real start for the Tennessee Volunteers.
6:53 remaining first quarter. 7-0 Florida. Tennessee on the move. Manning running out of time. Dumps it off. Nearly intercepted. It was batted down by Tony George. He was trying to weave it through a crowd to Jermaine Copeland, and he might have been better suited throwing that one away.
You've got to credit the Florida defense on that particular play. The coverage was absolutely outstanding. Manning rolled out. Great call by David Cutcliffe. Get him away from some of the pressure that Florida has put on him thus far. But all of a sudden, no one was open because of that tight coverage that Florida employs.
2nd and 10 at the Florida 32. From the shotgun, Manning. Fumble! Recovered by Sean Bryson at the 34-yard line. The ball was knocked out by Tim Beauchamp.
Tim Beauchamp, number 93, he led Florida last year as the leading sack man. He came around the block, continued to put the pressure, and then stripped. All defensive linebackers are taught to strip the football. They want to rip it out of that ball carrier's hands. Great play by Beauchamp.
6 minutes remaining first quarter. Again, a deafening roar from the 85,000 here at the Swamp. 3rd and 12. Blitz. Manning incomplete. Looking for Copeland. Batted away by the nickel man, Mike Harris.
Tennessee loves to spread people out across the field. That allows them to get vertical depth, and it opens up the field. But Mike Harris, number 13, was sitting right in the middle of the Florida defense and came within inches of intercepting that ball.
Had that gotten through, it was a touchdown. There was nobody for Florida behind Jermaine Copeland.
It was really an instinctive play by Mike Harris.
Florida does not have anybody back deep to receive the punt. Hogue with a good job, and it's down at the 7-yard line. 27-yard punt, no return. Back to Gainesville in a moment. Back Back at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, Florida Field, better known as the Swamp, where Florida leads 7-0. Since 1990, Florida is 43-2 in this stadium. They've won 17 straight here. Their only losses in the 90s to Florida State in 93 and Auburn in 94. Doug Johnson off to a solid start. He's thrown the only touchdown of this game, an 11-yard pass to Jamie Richardson. The scoring drive for Florida on its last possession was 7 plays, 69 yards, and as usual, the Gators struck quickly. It took just 2 minutes and 19 seconds. They're backed up to their own 7 after the punt. Play clock is working once again. Johnson out in the flat. Jaquez Green taking Fair for a ride, and he appears to have the first down. Very close, just beyond the 17-yard line.
You know, everybody thinks about Florida just being a passing team, but they really like to run the ball and be balanced. One of their favorite plays is the sprint draw. They put one down lineman on another down lineman. They block big man on big man, put the fullback on the linebacker. They take the wide receiver, block the defensive back. The quarterback fakes like he's going to throw a pass, slips the ball to the tailback, and the tailback runs to daylight. We expect to see Florida run the ball today with this particular play.
Timeout for a measurement. And Green did pick up the first down. Steve Spurrier certainly has enjoyed his team's superiority over Tennessee in recent years. At banquets, he's been known to tell jokes at the expense of Tennessee. Referred to the Citrus Bowl as the winter home of Tennessee. He once said you can't spell Citrus Bowl without UT. When he was asked why Peyton Manning came back for his senior season, he said it was because he wanted to set the record for consecutive starts at the Citrus Bowl by a quarterback.
You know, that's just good-natured college fun, right?
Johnson on 1st and 10, over the middle and over the head of his intended target, the tight end, Aaron Kinney. Let's get another update from Jim Nantz.
All right, check this out, guys. Tim Couch of Kentucky racking up numbers that Steve Spurrier would admire. The 6th pass of the day for Couch, setting a Kentucky record, and they're only midway through the 3rd quarter. Next week, Kentucky hosts Florida. Let's go back down to Sean and Terry.
And we'll see that game, Florida at Kentucky, next week here on CBS. And Hal Mummy is doing a nice job as taking over Kentucky coach.
Boy, he's done a great job with that Tim Couch, too. And can you imagine that game next week will take 4 or 5 hours to play with the ball in the air between Florida and Kentucky.
On 2nd and 10. They swing it out and it's dropped by Fred Taylor. Johnson hit him in the fingertips. Fred couldn't squeeze it. So 3rd down and 10 upcoming. To get back to what we talked about with Steve Spurrier, he knows it's bulletin board material when he makes those comments, but as he said, how much madder can Tennessee get? How much more fired up can anybody on either side be for this game? It really has no impact in his opinion.
Well, and Steve also said that he doesn't make half those statements that are given that he's credited for. The SID or some alum makes that statement, but it comes as Steve Spurrier said it.
And the pass is incomplete. It was juggled by Green, and then Terry Fair knocked the ball loose. Had Green caught it as the ball arrived, he would have had a first down, but the juggle allowed Fair to close and pop it loose, and they're having quite a one-on-one battle.
Now, Terry Fair is an outstanding player. He's playing with a bad shoulder, but this is a great hit. Jaquez Green runs right down the field, just turns around, waits on the curl. The ball's a little bit high and late, and Terry Fair unloads on him and knocks it loose. That's the way you play defense.
Robbie Stevenson got off a good punt. It was first of the day. Jermaine Copeland standing at his own 45. Copeland, look out. He gets leveled by Tony George, and George was too close as the ball arrived, and he's going to be called for interference. A 36-yard punt with no return, but a flag thrown against George, who was just a bit too tight as the ball came down. Dick Burleson is the referee.
Of the 2-yard buffer zone, 5-yard penalty, first down.
Yeah, As the referee just explained, there's a 2-yard bumper zone. You've got to give the receiver at least 2 yards. And Tony George comes in, closes that zone too quickly, delivers the hit, therefore the penalty.
So this possession will begin in Florida territory for Tennessee at the 49 of the Gators. 4:34 remaining first quarter. 7-0 Florida.
The reason you have a protection zone like that for a receiver is to keep him safe. It's a good rule in college football.
Manning under pressure and runs away from it. And he gets popped by George at the 41-yard line. That's a gain of 8. Down to the field, here's Michelle Tafoya.
All right, Sean. Well, earlier this week, the controversy here in Gainesville surrounded defensive lineman Ed Chester. He apparently made some quotes during SEC Media Days back in July about taking Peyton Manning out of this game. But those quotes didn't surface until this week. In fact, Steve Spurrier didn't even know about them. They read like this: I never want to end somebody's career, but if I can take him out for that game and he can play next week, I'll be just as happy. More in a second.
And on 2nd and 2, it's Mark Levine close to a first down, tackled by Willie Cohen's backup right end. Here's Michelle.
Well, when Steve Spurrier heard that quote, he called Chester on it. Chester didn't deny the comments, but he believes he was taken out of context. Peyton Manning told me he's used to those comments. He hears them all the time, and he said, frankly, until we beat Florida, the Gators can talk all they want. Guys?
You know, Sean, I get the impression these two teams don't like one another.
They had a minor skirmish about a half an hour before kickoff as they were coming out to warm up. Some pushing and shoving. And coaches quickly separated them. Moving along the line, there is a flag down. If the play stands, it's a first down for Peyton Manning on the keeper.
Oftentimes on a quarterback sneak like this, the defense will line up in the neutral zone. They'll get so excited to try and crowd the ball and stop that quarterback sneak. Sometimes they line up off sides. That may be what we have here. Or offensive guys move
offside,
a little bit.
Defense, 5-yard penalty, first down.
There was movement from Florida, and it's a first down. It would have been a Tennessee first down either way.
It's hard to tell at the angle. Right here, we have a Florida Gator jumping off sides, just gets into the neutral zone right before the ball is snapped. Willie Cohen's number 55 got into that zone.
Each team has been penalized twice. 1st and 10 at the 34. Philip Crosby and Jamal Lewis in the backfield. And it's Crosby, the fullback, a punishing runner. That's a quality gain inside the 30. And down to the 28, perhaps the 27. Give Crosby 6 on his first carry today. He's a junior from Bessemer City, North Carolina. Coach Cutcliffe said he is their most physical back. We saw some of that on that run.
He should be physical, Sean. He's 250 pounds as a fullback. That's a big load coming at you from the fullback position.
Tennessee trying to establish the run, and it has here in the first quarter. Jamal Lewis close to the first down at the 25. Keith Kelsey, a backup linebacker, made the hit on Lewis.
David Cutcliffe said that they have to be able to control the line of scrimmage. He's the offensive coordinator at Tennessee. You can see the surge of the Tennessee offensive line, and then they've got big Philip Crosby leading that play. You put all those big linemen at about 300 pounds apiece, put a 250-pound fullback up there, you ought to be able to start denting that line of scrimmage.
Again, 3rd and inches. We'll see if it's Manning again. No, he hands off this time, and it's Crosby for the first down. Imagine you coach Troy Aikman, so you can speak to this. As a quarterback, these repeated quarterback sneaks on a guy like Peyton Manning, he doesn't need to take any extra pops. He's going to take somebody, drop it back to throw.
Well, and that's true, but when the ball is a foot, 2 feet, you hate to give it to a back who's lined up 5 yards, maybe 7 yards deep in the backfield. Penetration really hurts you there, so it's a good call. It's generally successful, and a guy like Peyton Manning, remember, that's 225 pounds of athlete there. He's a pretty tough guy.
So you say, stay with the sneaks, let him take the hit.
Hey, he's got a scholarship.
Crosby on 1st and 10. They tried the fullback up the middle, and he got stuffed right at the line of scrimmage. Again, it was Keith Kelsey making the hit on Crosby.
One of the things, Sean, this drive by Tennessee, it's doing a couple things. It is establishing a line of scrimmage and a running game for Tennessee, which will remove some of the pressure off Peyton Manning. It also is keeping the Florida offense off the doggone field. If you're Tennessee, keep that offense over there on the sideline.
Loss of 1, 2nd and 11 from the Florida 24. The Gators lead 7-0, less than a minute left in the quarter. They're going toward the end zone, incomplete, intended for Nash. And Weary had the coverage. Marcus Nash, with the departure of Joey Kent, has taken over as the #1 receiver this year. They have a great tradition at wide receiver U, as it's known in Knoxville.
Well, Marcus Nash has taken over the leadership role at the wide receiver position at Tennessee. Peyton Manning, it's a fade route. He lays the ball outside. Marcus Nash has to make that catch in this game against Florida. Players have got to come up big in the big game. You can't put it all on your quarterback. That was a catchable ball. Marcus Nash is a great receiver. He'll come up with the next one.
3 wide receivers all out to the right, with 1 wide out to the left. Out of the shotgun. Here comes the rush. Manning backpedaling for an interception. Tony George with some running room along the near sideline. George! Copeland, the only man with a chance to catch him. Touchdown, Florida! On the interception return by George, the junior from Cincinnati, Ohio. Collins Cooper out of the hold of Billy Young. And it's 14-0 Florida with 15 seconds remaining in the first quarter. Flag down on the extra point.
Ed Chester, the defensive tackle from Florida, he starts the whole process. He comes from the inside, but Elijah Williams, number 25, comes on the blitz from the outside. Both of them lay the wood to Peyton Manning. The ball goes up in the air. Tony George with the interception return for the touchdown. Tony George played cornerback last year, was shifted to strong safety this year, comes up with the biggest interception of his life and certainly of his career.
You saw on the first replay, Manning had a man open, Marcus Nash, who was trying to squat down over the middle, but under pressure and throwing while backing up, the ball sailed over Nash's head right to George. George is a diabetic. And a great story and courage, and Michelle will tell you more about Tony George as the afternoon goes along. It's a touching tale.
Bob Stoops believes in pressure. The Florida defense is based on pressure. He wanted to bring pressure from the outside. Elijah Williams comes on the corner blaze. It's a very unusual stunt for Florida. They usually don't bring a secondary defender. Tennessee has not seen that very often in the past. That is a great job of coaching by the Florida defensive staff.
Bill Fulmer said the most important thing was we cannot turn it over. That's been the problem the last 2 years. And it's a problem already today. There was a personal foul penalty against Tennessee on the extra point, so the kickoff came from Stevenson from the 50, and Levine goes down to the 15-yard line. So just when it looked like Tennessee was building some momentum on offense, a major hiccup And they're backed up at their own 15 with 6 seconds left in the quarter. The tackle made by Darrell Owens.
Well, now if you're Tennessee, Sean, Philip Fulmer, this is the toughest part of the game. His team has lost to Florida 4 years in a row. The players in their mind, all of a sudden, is it the same old story again? This is where the Tennessee players have got to dig down, gather themselves, don't lose their courage, don't flinch, just go back at it and get after it. It's a long game. Lots of things can happen.
They mounted a spirited rally last year that fell short. They're going to keep it on the ground, get this quarter over with, regroup and begin the second quarter. Jamal Lewis tackled by Willie Rogers. And that is the end of the first quarter with the score. Florida 14 and Tennessee nothing. We'll return to Ben Hill Griffin Stadium after this message and a word from your local station. You're looking at Bob Stoops, the defensive coordinator for Florida. Youthful defensive coordinator at age 37. His defense has scored a touchdown. The offense has scored once, and Florida leads 14-0. First play of the second quarter. Manning again throwing off the wrong foot. Out of bounds. It was picked off, but Fred Weary was out of bounds. He had inside position. Outstanding coverage along the far sideline on Peerless Price.
One of the real characteristics of Bob Stoops' defense is press coverage. The defensive backs play tight coverage on the wide receivers. They play man-to-man. They don't give them any room to breathe. There's just no throwing lanes, and there's nowhere for the quarterback to go with the ball. It's just great defensive technique and personnel by Florida.
Manning 0 for his last 6. He appears to be rattled by this pressure defense being applied by Florida. He's trying to change the play with the play clock running out. In the flat, it's caught, but that's going nowhere. Levine driven back, his forward progress stopped, and Tennessee will be forced to punt.
Sean, we said at the beginning of the program, this might be the best Florida defense ever, and those words were not spoken lightly. Bob Stoops, Steve Spurrier told you and I yesterday in his office, this might be my best defensive team, and sure enough, Bob Stoops said this is a better defense than last year's.
Looks like they're going to come after Hogue. Everybody up, here they come, and Hogue got it away, and it's a fine punt. Jaquez Green from the 35. Turns the corner. Jaquez Green taken down from behind inside the 10. Corey Game saved the touchdown. Flag down at the 18-yard line. There are actually 2 flags, one at the 18, one near the 25. Two weeks ago against Central Michigan, Terry Jackson blocked the punt of the Chippewas, and Green returned that for a touchdown. This time he nearly went the distance as the return man.
On the run back, we have holding against the receiving team. That'll be 10 yards from the spot of the foul. In addition, we have a dead ball personal foul against the receiving team, 15 more yards.
Wow. Instead of being inside the 10, they're back at the 49-yard line of Tennessee. Those 2 penalties cost the Gators 40 yards.
Jaquez Green is one of the most dangerous players in college football. The first player down, Kevin Gregory for Tennessee, misses, and all of a sudden Jaquez Green just follows his blocking, almost puts the ball in the end zone for the Gators.
Florida with the ball and a 14-0 lead early in the second quarter. And whistles before the snap. And a timeout called by Florida. So out of a TV timeout, a problem for the Gators. And the only problem they've had here in the first half is that they'd have to use all 3 of their timeouts. Florida is out of timeouts with 13:50 left in the half. And Tennessee has all 3 of its remaining. Well, the big play of the game so far, the 89 yards officially. Interception returned by Tony George. With more on Tony, here's Michelle.
Well, as you mentioned, he has been battling diabetes for quite some time. In fact, when he came to Florida, Steve Spurrier didn't even know he had diabetes. But he's been inspired in that battle by his 15-year-old sister, Terry. She was born with cerebral palsy, and she is partially paralyzed along her left side. Now, every time Tony George comes onto the field before the kickoff, he separates himself from the team, and he points up into the stands where she sits and does a special dance for her so that he'll stand out among the rest of his players. I think he stood out on that play just then, Sean.
Indeed he did.
Boy, indeed he did. Biggest play of the game thus far, because it really affects the psychology of the Tennessee team and certainly of Peyton Manning. You've got to be able to bounce back from those kinds of adversity. Hard to do it mentally.
Tennessee on a blitz. The pass caught by Travis McGriff. Close to a first down. Terry Fair with the tackle. And it is a first down. The best seat in the house today is inside the Bud 1 airship, aerial ambassador of the King of Beers. Wonder if they have air conditioning up there. Hope they do.
I would think they do. Probably like being in a plane. No different. I've never been in a blimp. No, don't want to be in, but
no.
Probably no different. Probably like an aircraft.
Well, the chains had already moved along the near sideline, but the official chains are on the far side, and they wanted a measurement. They get it. And it is indeed a first down on the completion to Travis McGriff.
Well, a couple things about Doug Johnson thus far, the Florida quarterback, Sean. The ball just comes rocketing out of his hands. He's just got such a powerful arm. And except for 1 or 2 throws, he's done an outstanding job selecting his receivers.
He has been running for his life quite as much as Peyton Manning has. He's played a better game of the 2 quarterbacks so far. The handoff to Terry Jackson. He gets gang tackled at the 35, perhaps to the 34, as he moved the pile. Terry Noel applied the first pop from the Tennessee defense.
Now, Terry Jackson may be the most versatile player in college football, like Steve Spurrier says. He's a powerful running back. He's played linebacker. He does it all. Watch Leonard Little right in the middle linebacker there. He's got to be able to play against pass and run. And right there, the Florida offensive tackle got on him and just mauled him, just knocked him out of there. He didn't play the draw the way the Tennessee coaches would want him to play it.
That was Green in motion. Big hole, but it closes quickly for Jackson as he was leg tackled by Al Wilson, the leading tackler on the season for Tennessee. And John Chavis, the defensive coordinator, tells us he thinks Wilson could be an All-American.
Well, he's their big hit man, Al Wilson. There's no question. The first 2 games of the year, he's played like an All-American. And, of course, that's what you have to have when you're in this kind of a game. You need your best players to step up and make those plays for you.
They did not have much depth at linebacker to begin with, and that depth was reduced when Eric Westmoreland went down during the week with a knee injury that will require arthroscopic surgery. He'll be out 2 to 4 weeks. He played the entire game against UCLA 2 weeks ago for Tennessee, but he's out. Here comes Little on the blitz, and Johnson is slammed to the turf back at the 46.
Leonard Little must have heard me say that he didn't play the draw very well, because he certainly played the blitz this time. This is where Leonard is at his best, when he is blitzing the quarterback. He's got exceptional speed, quickness. He loves to sack the quarterback either from the linebacker position or the defensive end position. John Chavis, the defensive coordinator, is going to move him around a lot of different places today to try and put heat on the Florida quarterback.
First sack of the day for Tennessee, 21.5 for his career for Little. That's 3rd all time at Tennessee. 1 behind Todd Kelly. Reggie White is number 1 with 32. The punt from Stevenson, returned by Jermaine Copeland. And Stevenson, the punter, might have saved a touchdown at the 44-yard line. He wrapped up Copeland. We might want to remember this sequence. It was 14-0, and Florida had the big punt return inside the 10 that went back 40 yards on some penalties. Now it's Tennessee with good field position. CBS Sports coverage of NASDAQ college football will continue after this word from your local station. $14-0 Florida. Just under 11 minutes remaining in the first half. Tennessee with the ball. 1st and 10 at its own 46. After a 33-yard punt return by Jermaine Copeland. They blitz again. Manning has a man. 1st down into Florida territory. And a fumble. Picked up by Tony George. He's buried at the 40-yard line. Marcus Nash caught the pass and then fumbled. And Florida takes over.
Marcus Nash finally beat the bump coverage of Florida. He gets off the bump coverage man-on-man against Elijah Williams. He gets open. Peyton Manning has time. He delivers the ball. Nash does an excellent job catching the ball in his hands, but then Elijah Williams comes back and strips it. One of the trademarks of Florida's defense, the ability to strip the ball, create turnovers, get the ball back to Steve Spurrier's offense.
Turnovers killing Tennessee again. Blitz, Little throws Johnson down. That's all the way back to the 27-yard line.
We said at the beginning of the telecast, Tennessee has got to secure the ball. 10 turnovers in the last 2 years. It's hard to beat your biggest rival with that kind of ball handling.
Last year, 4 interceptions all in the first half and 2 fumbles lost for Tennessee. 2 years ago here at the Swamp, 4 fumbles lost. Each of the last 5 years, the winning team has committed 2 or fewer. So if that's to stand up and Tennessee's going to win, they can't put it on the ground again. Johnson on 2nd and a mile. Going a mile for McGriff, and it's just over his head. He was behind the defense, but the ball was just a little bit too long. Corey Gaines was nearest to him, but McGriff was open.
Travis McGriff, I like to watch Travis McGriff play because he's only 5'8". A lot of people talk about he's too small to play. Pepper Rogers used to say, who I worked for a long time, hey, if you're big enough, if you're good enough, you're big enough. And Travis McGriff certainly doesn't let 5'8" bother him at all. He just likes to play.
His dad was an outstanding wide receiver, all SEC at Florida back in 1974. Lee McGriff went on to become an assistant coach here at Florida, later an analyst on their radio network. Travis was a ball boy for the Gators when he was in the 8th and 9th grades. Johnson airing it out again for Green. It is caught! Jaquez Green out of bounds at the 25-yard line. Terry Fair beaten on the coverage. Torrey Noel had to make the tackle. It's a 48-yard gain.
Jaquez Green just runs down the field, but the thing that he does so well here, he allows himself room to fade on the ball. He's not close to the sideline initially, and then the ball pulls you towards the sideline. He leaves himself enough room to fade on that ball and make the perfect reception. What a throw by Doug Johnson, the quarterback. What a throw.
14-0 Florida. Gators on the move. Johnson lost the ball and fell on it for a loss. Back to the 27.
How often when you watch college football week in and week out, Sean, do you see people throw the ball deep and all of a sudden the guy catches it but he's out of bounds? The ball always pulls you out of bounds. If you're a good wide receiver, you give yourself that padding, that 4-yard cushion from the sideline. That is what Florida did. What a play.
The backup center is in the game for Florida, Zach Sedalis, wearing number 74. Don't know if that caused a problem for Johnson as he lost the handle. Sedalis is giving Wiley Rich a breather. And the speedster, the true freshman, Bo Carroll, shifts up close to Johnson, anticipating a blitz. It's just a 4-man rush. The pass caught short of a first down. Jaquez Green, tackled by Torrey Noel. At the 17, 2 yards shy of a first down. It's a gain of 11.
Steve Spurrier is an unorthodox coach. He loves to walk his backs up into the line of scrimmage, real close, so that they can pick up the blitzing linebackers. He doesn't want to allow those linebackers an opportunity to come from depth on him.
3rd and 2, and that play is stopped for a loss by Al Wilson. Bo Carroll couldn't get out of the backfield. And decision time for Steve Spurrier. He has not attempted a field goal this season, and it appears he will now.
Al Wilson, number 27, comes from the right part of the screen here. He is the big hit man for Tennessee. He puts that hit on him. Tennessee defense holds. That's the kind of play that Tennessee has to get out of the linebacking core today.
Collins Cooper, first attempt this season, 2nd of his career. Made one last year against Alabama in the SEC championship game, a 35-yarder. This is 37 officially and no good. Wide left for the junior from Jacksonville, a walk-on. On the first play of this Tennessee possession, it's Brian Darden, backup running back, ahead for a couple, make it a gain of 1 before he ran into Willie Cohen's. Next week, regional action on NASDAQ College Football here on CBS Sports. It starts at 3:30 Eastern Time. We'll see these Florida Gators at Kentucky take on Tim Couch and the Wildcats, while others will see West Virginia against Miami. The Hurricanes trying to get back on track after losing 2 in a row. That's all next Saturday, NASDAQ College Football on CBS Sports. 14-0 Florida. 7 minutes left, first half. Manning throws short of a first down to Marcus Nash. Terry, I guess if you're a Tennessee fan, the good news is this could be worse. The long punt return came back on 40 yards of penalties against Florida, then the missed field goal there a moment ago.
That last stand by the Tennessee defense was an important one. All of a sudden, if you can just hang in there, if you're Tennessee, after 4 years of getting blown out by Florida, just hang in there. The longer the underdog hangs in there, the better chance that he has to win the game. Tennessee, if they get a little drive going here, get a couple points on the board before half, all of a sudden it's a real ball game.
Vols have moved the ball in spurts, but they haven't been able to sustain drives. They've had 2 key turnovers. Manning wrapped up. He's still got the ball off, and it's incomplete. Looking for the tight end, Eric Diagu, and it was Tim Beauchamp who had Manning all wrapped up.
Tim Beauchamp coming from the right side of the screen. He lines up real wide, and it's a hard thing to block a wide rusher. Robert Poole, number 65, just doesn't set properly, and as a result, Beauchamp is able to put the pass rush on Peyton Manning.
Hold the punt. Manning was looking out on the left flat on that play. There wasn't a Tennessee man out there. Jamie Richardson will take a crack at this punt return. Eluded a couple of would-be tacklers and went out at the 45. 37 yards on the punt, 11 on the return. Back to the Swamp in a moment.
Watch Peyton Manning taken to the ground by Tim Beauchamp. His left wrist is turned up under his body. All of the weight goes on the left wrist. He's over there being tended to by the Tennessee training staff.
Nice bag on his left arm. 1st and 10 Florida. Johnson going deep, and it is nearly intercepted. The ball underthrown. Steve Johnson with outstanding coverage, but Nafis Kareem appeared to have a step on Johnson. Well, last week we posed the CBS Sports Line poll. We asked you to choose the greatest quarterback of all time from these 5 options. Well, let's find out how the folks across the country voted. Roger Staubach received 30% of the votes to beat Danny Werfel, Doug Flutie, Ty Detmer 4th, and Jim Plunkett of Stanford finished 5th. We'll have another question for you this week. Doug Johnson throwing on the run. Richardson has it ripped away by Terry Fair. Fair has the ball for Tennessee, and he slips down at the 22-yard line. Looked like another big gainer for Florida. Richardson had it, and Fair took it away from him.
Jamie Richardson did a great job of getting off the coverage against Terry Fair. He slips underneath him, clearly gets open, but then Terry Fair competes and recovers, turns back just in the nick of time to catch that ball and come up with the huge interception for Tennessee.
They're going to wear Fair out. He's been streaking up and down the sideline with Jaquez Green, now with Richardson. First interception of the year for Fair, the senior from Phoenix, Arizona. Manning hit as he threw, and the pass is incomplete. There's a flag down at the line of scrimmage. Marcus Nash, the intended receiver. Again, Manning has almost no time to get the ball off. He's now 5 out of 14 for 51 yards and an interception.
Well, Florida's game plan coming into today was to take Peyton Manning.
Defense lined up both sides. 5-yard penalty, repeat first down.
Disrupt his timing and put pressure on him so he became jittery in the pocket. Thaddeus Bullard, number 11, comes on the wide rush against Cozy Coleman, number 52, and that kind of pressure is what the Florida coaches had hoped to put on Manning all day long.
Now, that's a true freshman now at right tackle, protecting Peyton Manning. Cozy Coleman, the coaches think he has a chance to be one of the all-time greats at Tennessee. Manning throwing again on the move, and this time it is caught by Jermaine Copeland, the former quarterback. Now a receiver. And that's out to the 34-yard line. Jump on to CBS Sports Line this week. Make your choice for the greatest college football running back of all time. The nominees are O.J. Simpson, Archie Griffin, Tony Dorsett. Back then he was Tony Dorsett, Earl Campbell, and Herschel Walker. Tune into our games next weekend. Find out who is the fan's choice. The CBS Sports Line all-time greats poll. Philip Crosby, Brian Darden reserves in the backfield. Crosby in front of Darden in the eye. 5 minutes left first half. 14-0 Florida. Darden goes nowhere. Johnny Rutledge, part of the group, sending him in reverse. Keith Kelsey also in on the play for UF.
Watch Ed Chester in the middle of the Florida defense. He gets the penetration, but look at the press coverage up there by the Florida secondary. There are virtually 10 guys lined up on the line of scrimmage. And what Bob Stoops, the defensive coordinator, is saying, hey, you are not going to run the ball against my defense.
Pass thrown quickly to Derek Edmonds. He's out to the 39-yard line. Elijah Williams in on the stop with help from Tico Brown. First reception of the day for Edmonds, a sophomore from Tampa, Florida. And the coaches told us about his versatility during the week. He can move out to the wideout position if need be. Big third down here. 3rd and 5. Volunteers at their own 39. 4 wide receivers into the game. No tight end. Quick toss. First down and more into Florida territory goes Marcus Nash. He held on that time. And it was the lineman, the left end, Tim Beauchamp, downfield to make the tackle after a 15-yard gain.
Marcus Nash certainly makes his mark felt at the University of Tennessee. They've had a great line of tremendous receivers there. Marcus Nash has a chance to go down as one of the all-time great ones there. Having a big year for the Volunteers.
He's moved into their top 5 all-time in receptions. Manning has a man open. It is Edmonds again for another first down. Now Tennessee is crisply on the move. Down to the 31-yard line. Johnny Rutledge and Elijah Williams made the tackle. 15 more for Tennessee. 2:59 remaining in the first half, and Tennessee has all 3 of its timeouts left. Florida has none. Coming up, college football today, the Ford halftime report. Jim, Craig, and Lou with scores and highlights on a big day. marquee matchups set the tone for this college football season and played around the country. None bigger than this one. Play clock at 1 as Manning took the snap, dumped it off. They might be onto something here. Marcus Nash tackled by Ed Chester. Again, it's a defensive lineman running downfield to make the stop. They'll spot the ball near the 23, call it a gain of 7.
Boy, Peyton Manning put that ball where only eagles dare to fly. Florida came with the blitz, and Javon Curse came number 58, and Tico Brown almost got the interception. Javon Curse there also almost got the interception.
Manning 5 for 5 on this drive. 2nd and 3, under 2 minutes left in the half. Ideally, Tennessee would like to score with no time left in the half. Fumbled handoff, and Darden got it back. He never did get it cleanly, it appeared, from Manning. Darden came up pointing at himself to indicate that it was his mistake. And they were looking at turnover number 3, squarely in the eye. Darden was able to get it back, and Tennessee uses its first timeout.
One of the problems you have when you play a lot of running backs, not every back runs exactly the same course for the quarterback. They're all a little bit different, and the ball handling skill between the quarterback and the running back has to be worked to perfection. Right there, it looked like Peyton Manning put the ball where he needed to, but it was just mishandled.
Steve Spurrier always drawing up ball plays, as he calls them, with Doug Johnson on the sideline.
Florida rotating a lot of defensive linemen right now, Sean. It's hot down there on the field. They know they have to bring pressure on Peyton Manning. They're a deep team on defense, so they're bringing in a lot of backup players who are getting a chance to get into the ball game, bring their starters out, rest them, then get them back in for the onrush.
Terry, big 3rd down here. Now, if you're Philip Fulmer, might you be thinking that this is 4 down country? I actually have 2 plays to get these 2 yards, or this early in the game, if you're stopped, do you automatically kick a field goal?
Well, I think Philip Fulmer here, it depends, of course, how far you have to go for 4th down, but if it's close, I think Philip Fulmer probably will go for the 1st down and try to keep this drive alive, keep the ball away from Florida in the last minute and 40 seconds of the half.
A lone back. Lined up next to Manning is Sean Bryson. Manning, a bobble. Manning down the seam. Great catch by Copeland. Touchdown, Tennessee.
Tennessee likes to spread receivers across the field. They ran Copeland right down inside on a slant route, and Peyton Manning makes a beautiful throw. Copeland, a converted quarterback, Jermaine Copeland, is the receiver with the best hands at the University of Tennessee.
That's what David Cutcliffe, the offensive coordinator, told us, and certainly Copeland provided evidence of that statement with that catch. Timeout, Tennessee. The play clock was running down as they were lining up for the extra point, but they're on the board. Great drive for the Tennessee Volunteers, delighting their fans, many of whom made about a 9.5-hour drive from Knoxville to come down here in the sweltering heat and cheer on their favorite team. 8 plays, 78 yards. Copeland, the 22-yard pass from Manning. Peyton was 6 for 6 on the drive. Benson Scott holds for Jeff Hall. He was 9 for 9 in PATs this year, and he's still perfect. It looked like Florida might bury Tennessee early again this year, but the Volunteers have hung in there, and they're right in the football game with 1:33 left in the half. Sometimes you wonder if you score too quickly against Florida. Minute 33 can be an eternity for this bunch, but bear in mind the Gators have burned all 3 of their timeouts.
You certainly would like to score with no time on the clock when you're playing Florida, but watch Jermaine Copeland right here in the slot. This is almost the same play that Tennessee ran against UCLA a couple weeks ago for a touchdown, and almost an identical catch by Jermaine Copeland. The ball was led just like that. I'm looking at a replay. I'm sitting there saying, my goodness, I saw that a couple weeks ago between Manning and Copeland.
Elijah Williams standing at the goal line with Bo Carroll. Jeff Hall tees it up. And of course, Terry, burning that timeout for Tennessee on the extra point might be a factor. That they had a chance to pin Florida in here. They might have wanted to use the timeout to try to get the ball back before halftime. Now that's a lot less likely with only 1 timeout left. Oh, whistles were blowing as that ball was muffed. A very short kickoff. And it was recovered by Florida.
Tennessee missed a golden opportunity right there. The ball was clearly muffed. He called for a fair catch, did not handle the ball properly, and all of a sudden, when he called for a fair catch, it appeared that the Tennessee players kind of pulled up, didn't go cover full speed. The ball is on the ground. Would have been a wonderful opportunity for Tennessee there, but Florida opportunistically got onto the football.
It was a short kickoff, fumbled by Thaddeus Bullard, recovered by Rod Frazier, the younger brother of the former great Nebraska quarterback Tommy Frazier. A good field position for the Gators at the 37. Johnson with time, going deep again for Green. He's open! First down Gators at the 24 of Tennessee.
It's almost an identical play that we saw earlier in the game. Jaquez Green runs right down the field, just fades to the outside, and Gerald Griffin is inside him and just doesn't have enough room to play the ball. The credit, I think, goes to Jaquez Green for the great route, and Doug Johnson once again puts the ball perfectly on target.
39-yard gain, just like that. They're in scoring territory. It sounded like there were whistles blowing on the kickoff, but apparently those are coming from the band section, not from the officials. Johnson throws into the flat. Green the catch. He's hit immediately and taken down by Steve Johnson, the junior from Powder Springs, Georgia.
The Florida offensive line giving Steve Johnson plenty of time, doing an excellent job keeping the pressure off of him. Zach Pillar, number 69, the big left tackle. Mo Collins, 79, the big right tackle. Those are giants up in there.
No timeouts for Florida. Under a minute left in the half. Johnson zips it behind Travis McGriff. That was a laser beam, and McGriff couldn't catch it. Torrey Noel had coverage, but again, McGriff was open. And obviously, Terry, any kind of a score here by Florida would be a major momentum killer for Tennessee.
Well, absolutely. Tennessee with the big touchdown with 1 minute and 33 seconds to go. Now you've got to go out there, play defense, get these guys stopped, go in the locker room, have a bonfire, fire it up, and get ready for the second half. But here again, Florida is able to go down the field, threatening with 51 seconds to go.
3 receivers to the right, 3rd down and 5. Johnson throws, caught by Green, touchdown! Jaquez Green has been having his way with the Tennessee cornerbacks here in the first half.
Jaquez Green runs a little stop and go.
Collins Cooper for the extra point. That was very close, no good. Wide to the right.
Every 4 times Jaquez Green catches the ball as a receiver, he scores a touchdown.
Well, not much has gone right for Philip Fulmer the last 5 years in this rivalry. Just when his team seemed to have some momentum, Florida answered with a score after a short kickoff. Now it's Tennessee returning the kick. Mark Levine, a 30-yard return. Back to the 31-yard line. Wayne Thomas made the tackle. Florida uses a lot of its best players on special teams. Thomas is the starter at middle linebacker. We are 37 seconds away from the Ford halftime report with Jim, Craig, and Lou. Only one timeout remaining for Tennessee. Decent but not great field position at its own 31-yard line. Call it the 32. The nose of the ball just across the 31. 4-man rush. Manning rolled away from it. He needs to get out of bounds, and Marcus Nash did. With 29 seconds left in the half, that's close to a first down. At the 42, it is a first down. A gain of 11 on the completion. Manning to one of his best pals, Nash.
Boy, football is such a momentum game, Sean. You know, you think about the momentum swings in the last minute and a half. All of a sudden, Tennessee scores with a minute and a half to go in the game, goes 14-7. Their confidence has got to be bulging at that time. Then Florida just roars back down the field, puts a touchdown on them, and now the Tennessee Volunteers are sitting there saying, hey, is it the same old, same old? This is an important little 27-second period for Tennessee. They've got to move the ball, hit some passes, and feel good about themselves.
Manning's pass batted down. I believe it was Ed Chester who got a hand on it. 25 seconds left.
When you can't get to the quarterback as a defensive lineman, you're taught to put your hands up and to jump up in the air and try to knock it down. Ed Chester trying to get to Peyton Manning, gets double teamed, can't get there, but gets his hands up, knocks the ball down. That's why the guy was an all-conference first-string player last year.
He's a junior from Spring Hill, Florida, out of Springstead High School, the first Division I scholarship athlete out of that school. Out of the shotgun. Manning wrapped up, got it off, dropped. That's a catch that needs to be made by Benji Schuler. Close to a first down with Schuler had he held on to the football, but Heath's younger brother couldn't make the catch. Manning now 12 for 23. He was 6 for 6 on the last touchdown drive. 1 TD, 1 INT, which was returned the distance by Tony George. One of the Florida scores. 20-7. The Florida Gators have the lead with 20 seconds left in the half. 3rd and 10. Balls at their own 42 with 1 timeout remaining. Look out. Javon Curse in pursuit. They dump it off. It's Sean Bryson, short of a first down and in bounds at the 48. And if you were Tennessee, you could call a timeout here and throw one ball into the end zone on 4th down, then the half would end.
Well, they tried to throw a screenplay. Peyton Manning did a fabulous job getting the pass off, not taking the sack. They just wanted to make sure they got out of the half without anything else bad happening to them.
They could have stopped the clock with 3 or 4 seconds and heaved one into the end zone or toward the end zone on the last play, but they elected not to even consider that option. Let's check in with Michelle.
All right, well, Coach, coming into this game, I'm with Steve Spurrier, by the way, in case you didn't recognize the face. All the attention was about Peyton Manning, and yet your young quarterback has survived the pressure very well. Your assessment of his performance thus far?
He's played very well. We got to block a little better, pass protection. But right now, it's sort of a defensive game. We're fortunate we've scored, but we've blown a lot of chances too. But there's a lot of ball left. Hopefully we can continue playing well on defense.
This game has a history of having 2 completely different halves. Your biggest concern about the second half?
Oh, we hadn't played very well, so we're going to try to play better.
Thanks, Coach.
The end of the first half, the score Florida 20, Tennessee 7. Jim Nance, Craig James, and Lou Holtz will be along with college football's halftime report right after this word from your local station. Back at the Swamp in Gainesville, Florida leads 20-17, 20-7 rather, at halftime. Sean McDonough with Terry Donahue. And Coach, a big key to this game, controlling the line of scrimmage. Peyton Manning had a so-so half, but when he really struggled, it was largely as a result of not having much time to throw.
Well, David Cutcliffe, the offensive coordinator at Tennessee, said the key was to give Peyton Manning time so he could get his rhythm. Florida has not given him that time. That's number one. The Florida defensive line and linebackers have put tremendous pressure on him, and they also, the Florida secondary, have really covered up the Tennessee receivers, and they've not been able to get off the bump and run coverage. And so consequently, Peyton Manning really hasn't had a lot of places to go with the ball.
He was not sacked, but he was knocked down 11 times in the half, hurried on 13 occasions.
Now that'll disrupt you if you're a quarterback. That takes away your confidence to some degree, and also your timing and your rhythm.
Tennessee to get the ball first to begin the second half. It's Mark Levine returning the kickoff of Stevenson. And he's out of bounds across the 30. Good return. Brought it out of the end zone. 35 yards to the 32. A quarterback comparison. Johnson 11 of 21. Manning 13 of 24. 2 touchdowns thrown by Johnson and 1 INT, while Manning threw 1 touchdown and 1 interception that was returned by Florida for a TD.
Well, and Doug Johnson has been hurried himself at times. Leonard Little had a couple big sacks, but for the most part, Doug Johnson has had a cleaner line of scrimmage than Peyton Manning.
Jamal Lewis, the true freshman, in at tailback, and he gets the handoff and gets very little. Matter of fact, he got a loss on the play. Back to the 31, Johnny Rutledge, the junior from Belglade, Florida, leading the defensive surge for the Gators. The numbers in total for the first half.
Well, and it's interesting when you look at the rushing yards. Florida minus 21, 46 for Tennessee, and yet Florida has put up 20 points, and Steve Spurrier obviously displeased with the way his offense has played in the first half.
I mentioned in the 90s, the team with the higher rushing total has won every game. That might not be the case today. Peerless Price with the reception. Got another very short gain. That's to the 34-yard line. Leonard Little trying to stay cool. It's about 110 degrees on the floor of the swamp. Third down and 8. 3 wide receivers, no tight end. Manning out of the shotgun. 4-man rush. He has time. He threw an interception. Intended for Price. It was picked off by Fred Waring. And that time you cannot blame the pressure because there wasn't very much. And it looked like with Manning's gesture, he thought Price ran the wrong route.
Fred Weary lines up man-to-man against Peerless Price, and his job is to take him all over the field. Whether he runs short or deep, Peerless Price doesn't run a very aggressive route. He almost glides off the line of scrimmage. Weary jumps in front of the ball, makes the interception, comes over to that sideline, firing up that Gator defense.
Second interception of the year for Weary. Senior, 3-year starter from Jacksonville. Coach Stoops told us he's their best coverage cornerback. From the 41 on 1st and 10. That pass incomplete. Tight coverage by Fair on Green. And they want to tighten up the coverage on Green. He had a big first half. Manning did not. And you can see his gesture telling Price to come back to the ball.
Well, Peyton Manning is correct there. In my judgment, Peerless Price didn't really blow off the line of scrimmage. He cruised off, and then when you make that break, you've got to come back to that quarterback. You can't let that ball hang in the air. I've seen it time and time again, Sean. You've got to come back to the ball.
Jackson creeps in tight on 2nd and 10. Johnson lofts it. Jump ball. Whose ball is it? Tennessee ball. Steve Johnson with the interception. He ripped it away from Jaquez Green. And now each team has thrown an interception in the first minute and 42 of the second half.
Well, you don't see very often Jaquez Green getting beat for the ball, but in this particular case, Steve Johnson does exactly that. He rips it out of the air and makes the big play for the Volunteers.
Tennessee coaches told us Steve Johnson's a little inconsistent. He'd play more. Were he more consistent, he might be making a bid for more playing time. He's played solidly today, and the big interception gives the ball back to the Volunteers from their own 24. And the quick pass is caught. Andy McCullough, senior from Dayton, Ohio, tackled by Weary. The Budweiser blimp and its eye-in-the-sky camera. Proud to provide you with these live shots 1,000 feet above Ben Hill Griffin Stadium.
Sean, one of the things that Tennessee has got to take a shot at sooner or later here to get back in this game, they've got to get the ball down the field. Everything is short, underneath stuff. Sooner or later, you've got to say, okay, we're going to challenge those Florida defensive backs. They can't crowd the line of scrimmage like they are right here. Look at them crowded up there. You got to go deep with the ball.
Manning throws incomplete. Looked like there might be some contact from behind for Elijah Williams. Jermaine Copeland, the intended receiver. That play was there, but Tennessee could not execute. And it'll be third down for the Volunteers. 3rd and 4 early in the second half.
What happens when you watch Florida's defense, it becomes a personnel strategy. If my defensive backs are better than your wide receivers, I can line up on your nose all day long. But if your wide receiver is better than my defensive back, I can't do that. I've got to back off.
David Cutcliffe, the offensive coordinator for Tennessee, said this would be a game of a lot of one-on-one battles. His receivers are not winning those. They won that one. And it's a first down with forward progress out to the 37-yard line for Andy McCullough. And again, it was Fred Weary who made the tackle. That's a gain of 7 for McCullough.
Well, and this is a good call by David Cutcliffe, the offensive coordinator. He moves Peyton Manning out to the side, gets him away from all that powerful Florida rush, and Manning puts the ball where he needs to for the completion.
Even on that completion, very little separation between the Tennessee receiver and these Florida DBs.
It's just tight coverage, Sean. It is tight coverage.
Tennessee with the edge in first downs. We're 3 minutes into the second half. The Volunteers trail by 13. Wrapped up is Manning, and his ball fluttered out of his hand. They had him around the ankles. One Volunteer lost a helmet. Willie Rogers and Johnny Rutledge applying the pressure. And Spencer Riley got his helmet back.
Johnny Rutledge does a great job with his second effort on the rush. He's the linebacker who blitzes. He gets blocked effectively by the Tennessee running back, but he doesn't stay blocked. That's the thing you do in football. You give the second effort and go ahead and make the sack or the pressure.
2nd and 10. Out of the shotgun. Manning running for his life. Free football. And the Volunteers got it back. Tony George coming on the blitz. Popped the ball out of the hands of Manning. And Peyton looked a little bit wobbly as he got up. And he might have just asked for a timeout. He needs some help.
Tony George comes from the top of the screen on the blitz. He's the guy that puts the pressure on Peyton Manning and shakes him up.
Word from the sideline is Peyton Manning had the wind knocked out of him on that last play. Took a timeout. Caught his breath. Now he's back in for 3rd down and 17. The Volunteers at their own 29. Blitzing from the right. Manning on the run. Incomplete. Very little chance to complete that one to Marcus Nash. Mike Moten closest in pursuit of Manning. He's been running for his life all day.
That's exactly what has happened, Sean. The Florida defensive line is dominating the Tennessee offensive line. They are getting penetration. They're getting upfield. They just can't keep them and block them. So Manning is running for his life. One of the things Tennessee did at the end of the first half, they screened. They probably need to come back maybe with a screen, try and take off some of that pressure, and they've got to somehow get the ball deep.
Chris Hoag's done a good job taking over as the punter today. Jaquez Green advances to the 31-yard line. 48-yard punt, 5-yard return. Keith Gregory, the snapper, made the tackle. Today's NASDAQ Scholar Athlete of the Game is Terry Jackson of Florida. NASDAQ's commitment to the investment in our future is shown today by donating $1,000 to Florida's General Scholarship Foundation. Terry Jackson, a 3.7 grade point average as a business marketing major here at the University of Florida. On first down, Taylor. All the way down to the 38-yard line of Tennessee. 31 on the run for the senior from Belglade, Florida.
We haven't heard much from Fred Taylor this afternoon thus far, but on this particular play, he gets a great block from number 22, Terry Jackson, and it's just a toss sweep play. You can see Jackson unloads there, and Taylor takes it down behind Jaquez Green for a nice gain.
Terry Jackson in front of Taylor in the eye. Looks like the same play. Taylor inside the 35 and down to the 33.
John, it was exactly the same play. The formation was different, but the play was the same.
More than 4 minutes played in the third quarter. It is still 20-7 in favor of Florida. That was the score at halftime. Elijah Williams doing some stretching. The transition he's made as a senior, moving from running back to quarterback. He was their leading rusher the last 2 years. Moved the defense this season. Taylor with some tough running inside to pick up a couple, perhaps 3 to the 30. Al Wilson with the primary hit on Taylor, who's today moved past Lorenzo Hampton into 11th place all-time in rushing.
Sean,
University of Florida. He's gone over 2,000 yards for his career.
You talk about the great depth that Florida has. Here you have Elijah, and he's a player that not only did he lead the team in rushing last year, he's the 7th best rusher in the history of the University of Florida, and they go ahead and move him to defense. And then they take Terry Jackson, move him to fullback. This team is so deep at certain positions and has such skill that they're just very, very difficult to play against.
3rd and 2. And it appeared the Volunteers jumped offside. Question is, were they drawn? And if the Volunteers came across as a result of the cadence change by Johnson, that's the performance of a seasoned veteran at quarterback.
Offside, defense.
Not what you'd expect from somebody in his 3rd college game as a starter.
Raynoch Thompson, he's the guilty party. He was trying to come on the blitz along with Leonard Little, and the quarterback just did an excellent job with his voice flexion, drew him off. Like you say, a veteran move, not really a move that a first-year player and someone that's only played in 2 previous games would do. This is a cool customer here. Steve Spurrier, once again, has an outstanding quarterback in his program.
And that quarterback gets outstanding coaching from Spurrier to the end zone, batted down. Nice coverage that time by Fair. What a battle he's been having all day with Jaquez Green. Green in the first half had 7 receptions for 148 yards. His single game bests are 8 catches earlier this year against Southern Miss and 155 yards in 95 against Vanderbilt.
Well, Tennessee usually doesn't flop the corners, but this week they have gone ahead and flopped Terry Fair so he could be with Jaquez Green. This particular play, Terry Fair played perfectly. That is the way you play defensive back, particularly against a receiver like Jaquez Green.
Doug Johnson calling signals. He grew up here in Gainesville, a die-hard Gator fan. It was always his dream to be a Gator. Blitz from the corner. Pass dropped. It hit Richardson in the hands. Jamie couldn't squeeze it. Johnson got belted as Torrey Noel came on a safety blitz.
Torrey Noel is the strong safety for Tennessee. He is the man that comes on the blitz. He's unblocked, and the quarterback has got to account for him, and here he lays the hit on Doug Johnson. A quarterback can get knocked out of the game when you get blindsided like that by a strong safety.
Johnson's 0 for 4 this half, and he has thrown an interception. This is 3rd down and 10 from the 25-yard line. Draw, Taylor wrapped up by Wilson, well shy of the first down. It'll be 4th and about 5, and the field goal unit is coming on.
You know, I can't imagine what I just heard, Sean, but that was what people would say a conservative call, right? Yes. It was a running play up the middle, and it was from Steve Spurrier, the wild man of college football. And there were actually some grumblings in the stands about the call. How anybody could question what Steve Spurrier does offensively is beyond me.
37-yarder. He missed from 37 earlier today. This is from just inside the right hash mark. And that one's good for Collins Cooper. His first field goal of the season. The Gators lead by 16. Mark Levine standing at the goal line. Robbie Stevenson with a kickoff. Again, he'll try to run it out from 3 yards deep. Right up the right hash mark. He got popped as he reached the 24. Here's Michelle.
All right, well, guys, there are a lot have been made about Steve Spurrier's fascination with this book, The Art of War, and a copy, in fact, does sit on his desktop. But right alongside it sits a book by an author that he says has truly influenced his coaching career, and that's John Wooden. In fact, he showed us an entire file full of John Wooden quotes. One quote coming out of this book that seems terribly appropriate for this game is, "The infection of success can lead you to live in the past, to believe that what happened before is automatically going to happen again." And Spurrier is hoping today his players are not infected by the success of the past 4 years, guys.
And he certainly takes that attitude about the national championship. We asked him about that yesterday. He totally brushed it off. Nice play there. They lofted out. Marcus Nash runs under it, and it's a 26-yard gain to get Tennessee out around midfield.
Sean, this is what I mentioned about Tennessee has to go deep with the ball. Get those defensive backs off of your wideouts. Peyton Manning puts this ball up beautifully. Marcus Nash runs underneath it. You can win some of those wars. You got to go and challenge those defensive backs.
And again, Fred Weary was right there, but that time Nash won the battle. His 6th catch of the day. From the 50-yard line, big hole. Mark Levine took a pop and kept on moving, and he has a first down to the 39. Johnny Rutledge delivered the hit for the University of Florida, but the Volunteers are quickly on the move with 8:04 remaining in the 3rd quarter.
Well, up until this time, the defensive tackles for Florida have dominated the game. But on this particular play, Tennessee runs an isolation play. The fullback makes a good block, and they rip into the interior of that defensive line that has dominated thus far.
They've had mixed results with the run game, but they really have gotten away from it to a large extent. 1st and 10, Tennessee down by 16 points. Play clock running out. Timeout called by Manning. Tennessee is down to 1 timeout left. That could be a very big factor down the stretch. We welcome you back live to Ben Hill Griffin Stadium in Gainesville, Florida, home of the Florida Gators, who lead Tennessee 23-7 midway through the 3rd quarter. Sean McDonough with Terry Donahue and Michelle Tafoya. Delighted to have you with us. Tennessee trying to hang in there with the Gators, who've won the last 4 meetings in this rivalry. Jamal Lewis, the lone back behind Manning. After Tennessee timeout, the quick toss to Lewis. He'll be dropped for a loss. Mike Peterson, the strong side linebacker, shed his block very quickly and dropped Lewis for a loss of 2 back to the 42.
The reason the Florida defense is so hard to run against, if you look at this, they've got 10 guys up there crowded the line of scrimmage and 1 deep player. As a result, when you go to run, there's just too many blue shirts that are swarming the ball, and they're too good athletically. Tennessee just can't consistently enough get them blocked.
Could you run a reverse against this group?
Certainly. I don't know if it'll work, but you can run one.
Looked like it might have had a chance to work there had they had somebody coming the opposite direction. Tremendous pursuit by Florida. Throwback screen. Jamal Lewis Tackled at the 35-yard line, short of a first down. Dwayne Thomas, the senior from Jacksonville, and the defensive captain for Florida, made the play.
Sean, you mentioned a reverse. When you have a swarming, attacking defense like Florida, what you do is run reverses, you run counters, you run draws, and you run screens to try and at least slow it down. Doesn't mean they're going to work, but you call them and run them just to try and take some of the intensity away from that group of players that are angry coming after your quarterback.
Well, that previous running play by Lewis looked like it might be a setup for a reverse. Later, that's a high pass, nearly intercepted. It hit Elijah Williams in the hands, and now it's 4th down and 7 at the 36, and Philip Fulmer has a big decision here.
That was not a good decision by Peyton Manning. Some of the things that have happened today certainly have not been Peyton Manning's fault. That particular play, he just made a bad throwing decision. He threw into a crowd, almost threw an interception.
Certainly the line play has not helped him, but he has not had a great day either. They're going for it on 4th and 7 with a lot of time left. 6:04 in the 3rd quarter. Manning had to throw. It's incomplete off the hands of Nash. Looked like he had a receiver open running right down the sideline. Peerless Price. Instead he went to Nash, and if Marcus had caught that ball, it might not have been a first down.
Marcus Nash is in the slot. He runs down the field. Peyton Manning has to get rid of the ball because Florida brings the blitz. The ball is high. I don't believe that Marcus Nash can be held responsible for that particular play. Philip Fulmer knows they're inches away from getting the ball moved on Florida and just can't seemingly get it done.
First and 10 Gators. Back to the run with Fred Taylor. And a quality gain out to the 45-yard line. Torrey Noel and Corey Gaines, the safeties, combining on the stop. It's a gain of 9. Florida scored first in the first quarter. Jamie Richardson, an 11-yard pass from Doug Johnson. And Tony George ran an interception to Manning back 89 yards. 3rd longest interception return in school history. Jermaine Copeland with the first Tennessee points. A nice one-handed catch for 22 and a score. Jaquez Green right before the half. That was a killer. Collins Cooper with his first field goal of the year made it 23-7. That's where we stand now. Terry Jackson into Tennessee territory. Spotted down at the 47-yard line. Gain of 7 and a first down for Florida.
Sean, you know, sometimes a number belongs to a family. Terry Jackson, number 22. His father played at the University of Florida. His brother played at the University of Florida. Steve Spurrier has said Terry Jackson, currently playing for the University of Florida, may be the most versatile player in college football.
Willie Sr. was the first black player at the University of Florida in 1969. Willie Jr. is Florida's all-time touchdown reception leader with 24. He's now with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Timeout Florida. Back to the Swamp in a moment. Gators lead 23-7. Under 5 minutes remaining in the 3rd quarter. Tonight on CBS starts with Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, and its early edition followed by Walker, Texas Ranger. That's all tonight right here on CBS. Doug Johnson with Fred Taylor, the lone back behind him. Florida's rushed the ball 6 times in this half for 59 yards. There's another big gain. Taylor into the secondary and out of bounds inside the 30. Pushed out by Corey Gaines at the 28. Make that the 23-yard line and a gain of 25.
Fred Taylor has come alive here in the second half. He's a big, powerful 225-pound back. He runs the cutback. There's a hole in the Tennessee defense, and he makes Steve Johnson 34 miss. When you get great backs out in the open field, they need to make defensive backs and linebacker miss, and Fred Taylor did just that.
They stay on the ground, and why not? Taylor pounds it down inside the 20. And the clock runs to 4:33 remaining in the third quarter.
You know, a few seconds ago, Sean, we looked at some rushing yards, and Florida was in the minus category. And now all of a sudden they're starting to capture that category in this game, starting to flex their muscles running the ball.
Second and 7 from the 20. Doug Johnson, professional baseball player when he's not the quarterback at Florida. Minor leaguer in the Tampa Bay Devil Rays system. Shows some elusiveness and then gets popped out of bounds by Wilson. The crowd groans, but that's in bounds and a clean hit. And Johnson points to the scoreboard. It's a little early for that stuff. But he might have been hearing it from the Vols and their fans over on that sideline.
Well, and he hears it when he goes out of bounds. When you go out of bounds on the opponent's sideline, there all kinds of little things are said to you. And Al Wilson gave him a hit, but it wasn't a late hit. He was still in bounds. To me, it was a clean, legal shot by Al Wilson. He just tried to make sure the quarterback knew he was around.
Loss on the play. Back to the 23. Third and 10. 3:55 remaining. Third quarter. 16-point lead for the Gators. They're looking to add to it. They are in field goal range. Johnson down the seam. McGriff fell down. He was wide open at the 10-yard line, but he slipped and fell.
Doug Johnson has been afforded outstanding protection for most of the game, not the entire contest, but for a great deal of it. And here he has plenty of time. But as you mentioned, Travis McGriff slipped and fell. It would have been a big reception for the Gators.
Collins Cooper, 1 out of 2 today, both attempts from 37 yards. This will be a 40-yarder from the left hash mark. And it would be a big field goal. It would make it a 3-score game. It would take 3 scores for the Volunteers to have a chance to get even or take the lead. And that looks terrific. It is. Longest field goal of Collins Cooper's career. 26-7 Florida.
Hospitals.
Well, once again this year, Tennessee in a situation in which the Volunteers have to mount a big comeback against Florida. And Terry, if they don't protect better, block better, or if the coaches can't find some ways to help the protection, they're not going to come back.
Well, it's going to be very difficult for Tennessee to come back because the Florida defense is so good. And, you know, Florida won the national championship last year, and they've told us, hey, this is a better defensive team than we had last year. And Steve Spurrier said eventually my offense will be almost as good. So this is a very powerful Florida team that we're watching.
And a very powerful kickoff by Robbie Stevenson through the end zone. Here's Michelle Tafoya.
All right, Sean. Well, Florida defensive back Elijah Williams, the humidity is starting to get to him. He was cramping up in his hamstring, his left hamstring, very badly. Defensive coordinator Bob Stoops offered him some water and said, hey, we need you out there. But that wasn't enough. He has been taken to the locker room. He's getting IV treatments. And just moments ago on the Tennessee side, Leonard Little was taken to his locker room. So we'll check that out and get back to you on that, Sean.
All right, Michelle. That's the cool zone, but it's not all that cool. Manning, quick hitter, caught by Benji Schuler. And he has a first down out at the 34-yard line. Tico Brown providing the coverage. 14-yard gain. Well, we talked about this game as it relates to Peyton Manning's career in its entirety, and it has been written in national publications this week that this is a defining game for him because with all that he's accomplished, if he doesn't win this game, if they don't win this game, people will say, yeah, Peyton had a great career, but he never could beat Florida. If he could mount a comeback here, it would be the stuff of legends. He needs some help. He hasn't gotten much today. And that ball is up for grabs and incomplete. That was thrown to a receiver who was very well covered. And that's been the case all day. Tony George had every bit as much of a chance of coming up with that ball as did Benji Schuler.
Benji Schuler has it for just a split second, but Tony George has been all over the field today. Remember, he's the guy that came up with the big interception in the first half. He has certainly made his presence felt, although he got hurt on this particular play and is limping off the field.
A couple of reserves in the secondary now, including John Ixnitis, number 26. 2nd and 10. Manning had a lot of running room, elected to throw, and that's a good decision. Andy McCullough inside the 10. Fred Wary saved the touchdown, 56 yards. Manning to McCullough.
Andy McCullough is the guy who came up big last year against Florida. Again today, he runs down the field, just runs a little inside post route. Manning gets time, steps up in the pocket, delivers the ball, and then Andy McCullough turns on the afterburners and makes an outstanding run down to about the 6-7 yard line.
McCullough had 6 catches and scored 2 touchdowns in the game against Florida last year. 5 catches today. Manning, running out of time, throws it away. Wise decision. He had nothing.
You know, Sean, you mentioned a couple plays ago about this being a defining moment for Peyton Manning, and a lot of people have written that. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think Peyton Manning's going to be a terrific professional quarterback. He's done unbelievably great things for the University of Tennessee. Sometimes you just have a nemesis, you know.
That's right.
And
sometimes the people around you aren't good enough, regardless of your greatness, to help you beat a great team like Florida. But the fact of the matter is, I think Peyton would admit after this game he hasn't had his best day today.
No, but he's been under real duress.
Yes, he has.
And the offensive line has got to take their share of the blame, as do the wide receivers and running backs. It's a team game. It's not like track.
Timeout Florida. That leaves each team with only 1 timeout, with 2:37 remaining in the 3rd quarter. (26-7) in favor of Florida. But Tennessee has it 2nd down and goal at the 8. Coming up this Monday, it's the premiere of a new series from the producers of Hill Street Blues. The New York Times calls this one of the most anticipated new dramas of the season. In fact, we hear that the first 9 minutes will blow you away. So check out Brooklyn South, premiering Monday at 10, 9 Central on CBS. The heat is definitely a factor. And that's a big break for Tennessee. That Ed Chester's on the sideline, apparently cramping up. Reason for the last Florida timeout might have been that they had 12 men on the field. That appeared to be the case. Manning ready to go back to action.
Sean, right here, these inside routes by Tennessee have been effective. The one thing that they've been effective with today is these little inside slants, the quick post inside. Look for Peyton Manning. They spread the field with 4 wideouts. That gives seams to throw into.
Manning throws quickly. Touchdown! Another terrific catch by Copeland. And just as Terry Donahue said, Copeland found the seam and the end zone. They will go for 1 here. They're going to kick the extra point. 2nd touchdown reception of the day for Jermaine Copeland, the junior from Harriman, Tennessee.
And Jermaine Copeland has certainly come alive as a receiver in the Tennessee offense. He has beautiful hands. He catches the ball out in space with those hands. I love the way he snatches it out of the air.
Jeff Hall's extra point made it a 12-point game.
Jermaine Copeland is going to run down the field, go inside. The flat coverage is going to be held by the inside receiver. And all of a sudden, there's a seam against the man-to-man. There's an opening. Peyton Manning puts the ball out there. He snatches it out of the air for the touchdown.
Well, we've talked all day about what a big game this is for both teams, particularly for Tennessee, trying to get over the hump of beating Florida. And for Philip Fulmer personally, this is a big game. He has the best winning percentage in the country of any active Division I-A coach who's coached at least 5 years. 9 losses, 4 of them against Florida. And he takes some heat in the state of Tennessee, despite the best record in the country, because they can't beat Florida, therefore they can't win the conference, and they can't contend for the national championship. So it all starts right here if Fulmer's really going to win over these Tennessee fans collectively.
Well, I think all coaches have their critics, and Philip Fulmer, unfortunately, I had plenty of them, and so does Philip Fulmer. But the fact is, he does have, as you pointed out, the best record in the game today. But he needs somehow, eventually, to get over the hump of the Florida Gators. But you know, the other thing is that Alabama beat Tennessee on a very consistent basis until a couple years ago, and Philip Fulmer got that turned around. So you got to believe that eventually he'll get this turned around.
There are the numbers we were talking about. Jamie Richardson brought the kickoff back to the 21. Fulmer #1 with coaches with a minimum of 5 years. Spurrier is 5th, but if you took just his Florida record, he'd be #1.
No question about it.
His time at Duke, he had a winning record at Duke. He was building that program up, won an ACC championship before he left Duke. That might be one of his greatest accomplishments. Hand off to Fred Taylor. Some nifty running. And he bounced out to the 27-yard line. A gain of 6. Steve Johnson made the tackle.
You know, one of the other things, Sean, when you start talking about Philip Fulmer having to beat Florida, remember this: he has to beat the great athletes at Florida, and in addition, he has to beat 2 of the finest coaches in the country, in Steve Spurrier, who runs the program, directs everything, but also Bob Stoops, the defensive coordinator, I think is a very, very outstanding coordinator and has talent and does a good job with it.
He'll probably be a head coach somewhere else very soon. Taylor bounces it outside. Fred Taylor, shirt tackled from behind at the 45-yard line of Florida by Corey Gaines. That's 18 more for Taylor. Now that the defense is tired a little bit, they're running right at them.
You never know how Florida is going to attack you. 1 minute they attack you with the pass, the next minute they come at with you with the run. Fred Taylor just takes the ball, starts one direction, and all of a sudden, when you give the ball deep in the backfield to a big, fast tailback, they run to daylight. They see running lanes, and they hit it. That's what Fred Taylor did there, and boy, can he get the ball up the field. He is a speed merchant.
All of a sudden, he's up to 107 yards rushing on just 10 carries. And they're going to stick with a good thing. Taylor puts his head down and runs over Steve Johnson. He delivered a punishing blow to the defensive back and bowled his way into Tennessee territory at the 48-yard line. Under a minute remaining in the third quarter now.
Fred Taylor just got upset because he didn't run the ball early in the game. Now all of a sudden they're giving him a chance to run it, and he's going wild.
Carried once for 3 yards in the first half. He started the day the leading rusher in the SEC, averaging 103 yards per game on the ground. Terry Jackson now the lone back behind Johnson. He spent the last 2 summers playing minor league baseball. He didn't have much success this year. Johnson appeared to juggle the snap. He elected to hang on to the ball.
Boy, good smart play by Doug Johnson. Shows some maturity and some understanding. The ball came up late. He didn't handle it properly. Instead of trying to execute the play, make something happen, put the ball under his hands, took it into the line of scrimmage, lived to fight another day.
That's the end of the third quarter with the score. Florida 26, Tennessee 14. Back at the Swamp in Gainesville for the start of the fourth quarter. And a big third down to begin the quarter for Florida. 3rd and 4, the Tennessee 49. Volunteers showing blitz. Movement. And it looked like Cooper Carlisle, the left tackle, might have come out of his stance early. He's the backup left tackle. He plays behind Zach Pillar. And he has a great connection to Peyton Manning. Their mothers were roommates at Ole Miss.
On the offense. Repeat the down.
Carlisle's mom, Carolyn, was the roommate of Peyton Manning's mom, Olivia. And there are Mrs. Carlisle and Mrs. Manning as they looked back in their college days. And those families remain great friends.
This is a big opportunity for the Tennessee defense. If they can get a stop here and get the ball back into Peyton Manning's hands, they have a chance.
They're playing without Leonard Little, who's left to get IV fluids. Nafis Kareem has the first down. If they had made the initial tackle, it would not have been a first down, but Al Wilson could take down Kareem, and Kareem bounced to the 44-yard line, 1st and 10 after a gain of 10.
Doug Johnson is able to get the ball out very quickly to Nafis Kareem, and then he makes the move that enables him to pick up the first down. One of the things you like to see in receivers is yards after the catch. Nafis just runs down to the sideline, catches the ball, makes the player miss, and then gets it up the field for the first down.
It's a tackle that Tennessee really needed to make. Another day in this rivalry of Florida making a lot of the little plays and Tennessee not making enough. Terry Jackson thrown for a loss. Time becoming a factor in part because Tennessee has just one timeout remaining. The same is true of Florida, but they're not trailing by 12. Let's go back to the previous play when Kareem got the first down. Philip Fulmer and others on the sideline knew that was a big miss.
Big miss. They had a real opportunity there to get that ball back to their offensive team. They've got to come up with a stop here, slow this Florida offense down.
2nd and 12, under 14 minutes remaining. Jackson Malone back, moved in tight. Johnson throwing deep, and that ball is batted away by Terry Fair. Great coverage on Jaquez Green.
Terry Fair and Jaquez Green have had a battle all day long. Jaquez has gone deep several times a day on fade routes. On this particular route, he runs straight down the field and then takes it to the post. He's got inside leverage, but Terry Fair goes over the top to knock the ball away. Picture perfect defensive position and play.
Green had 7 receptions in the first half. He has none here in the second half. 3rd and 12. Can they convert again? Here comes the blitz. Johnson has a lot of time. Great work by the line. The pass incomplete. Crowd wants a flag, and there is none. It was intended for Jamie Richardson, and the faithful here at the Swamp thought Steve Johnson was a bit too frisky.
The Florida offensive line did an unbelievably good job of picking up the pressure that Tennessee tried to apply, and then Steve Johnson on the coverage against Jamie Richardson. When you look at it, Johnson had all day to hit that ball, and Richardson a lot of time to get open, but the Volunteers dodged a bullet.
Stevenson to punt. Trying to pin the balls deep. Fair catch called for by Copeland. It's bouncing into the end zone. Gators had a chance, but they could not get downfield quickly enough. 46-yard punt, but a net of 26. The Tennessee Volunteers at the line of scrimmage. 1st and 10 from their own 20. Manning at 50% this half, while Johnson has struggled. The run game has been effective in the second half for Florida. Swing pass to Jamal Lewis. Nice running. He has the first down. Out to the 32. John Xnitis tripped him up.
Good job by Jamal Lewis, just coming out of the backfield, taking a little swing pass. Peyton Manning lays it off in a nice fashion to him, gives him a nice catchable ball, and he turns it upfield. A lot of people think this is going to be the next Herschel Walker in the SEC Conference. He's a young player. It's too early to make that comparison, but he's a good-looking athlete.
And it's telling that he's in there at crunch time for Tennessee instead of the veteran backs. That is thrown away by Manning. Looking for the fade to Nash, and that was well covered. A couple of backup defensive backs who are in the game now, Ronnie Battle and John Ixnitis. Next Saturday, NASDAQ College Football begins here on CBS Sports at 3:30 Eastern Time. The Gators, number 3 for the moment, will take on Kentucky. West Virginia versus Miami. Regional coverage next Saturday. Starts at 3:30 here on CBS Sports. 3 wide receivers. No tight end. Manning has time, throws, caught. Short of a first down. Peerless Price tackled by Fred Weary. Price has made an amazing comeback from a broken right leg suffered in their spring game, their orange-white scrimmage back in April. The coaches were told by the doctors he, at best, might be back for a bowl game, and here he is ready to start the year.
Peerless Price runs down the field and just turns around, and then he comes back for the ball, which he didn't do earlier in the game. The nice thing there, and what Peyton Manning wanted him to do early, was to go back to the ball. He did it there. Shows good improvement and awareness on his part.
3rd down and 2. Huge play in the ball game. Manning's pass batted down. Javon Curse deflected the pass. And with 12:06 remaining, Coach Fulmer will punt from his own 40-yard line.
Javon Curse acts like he's going to rush the quarterback, and then he drops into coverage and gets right into the throwing lane. Manning's trying to hit Jermaine Copeland, and he just got right into the middle of that throwing lane, got his hands up, intercepted the flow of the play of the game.
Chris Hogue to punt. 10 men up on the line for Florida. Plenty of time for Hogue, and this is a boomer. Tennessee might have found itself a new punter today. Jaquez Green tackled at the 23. 49-yard punt by Hogue. Florida with the lead in the ball. Great look at a very attractive campus here at the University of Florida. And a good-looking football team once again this year as well. Fred Taylor likes to lower that shoulder and run over defenders. Sean Johnson and Corey Gaines combined on a stop. But it's a gain out to the 30-yard line, a pickup of 7 for Taylor. Terry, I don't know how this Florida team can be number 1, or cannot be number 1 in both polls. They are number 1 in the coaches poll, but in the AP poll, Penn State is number 1 and Florida is number 3. No offense to the Nittany Lions, but Florida is the defending national champion, and they look like another great team this year.
Well, I think when people look and say Danny Werfel left, Ike Hilliard left, Riddell Anthony left, those are 3 great players. Florida can't possibly be as good, but Florida is better, clearly better on defense than the national championship team a year ago, and in time may be better offensively. It depends, of course, how Doug Johnson, the quarterback, develops and how everything goes, but boy, they have a lot of talent.
Terry Jackson carried for the first down. Doug Johnson is here for most of the football season, if you will, both in the fall and in the spring. He does leave in the summer to go play minor league baseball for the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. This past summer he played for Princeton in West Virginia, and A-ball hit 201. Fred Taylor trying to turn the corner, and he could not. Al Wilson made the tackle. Doug Johnson got a big bonus to sign in baseball with the Devil Rays. He was a second-round pick back in 1996. Got a bonus reported to be about $500,000. He's living out both dreams, playing professional baseball and playing for the Gators, the team he grew up loving. His mom worked here at the university for more than 20 years.
Well, the nice thing, too, about Doug Johnson is that, as you mentioned, he gets all of spring practice. He doesn't leave until after school is out, and that enables him to really be part of the football program. Much better than if you go and miss spring ball and then try to come back.
He's taking a deep drop. He was hit as he threw, and it is caught. Jaquez Green down to the 27-yard line. Terry Fair came running up, going for the interception, and the ball went over his head. 36 yards on the biggest day of Jaquez Green's career.
Jaquez Green has gone deep time and time again. He's run the post, he's run the fade. Now he comes back and runs the post corner. He's lined up at the top of the screen. He's going to run inside and then outside. And he turns Terry Terry Fair around.
8 catches today for Green, matching his career best. 185 yards receiving is a single game best for Jaquez Green, the junior from Fort Valley, Georgia. From the 27 of Tennessee, Taylor inside the 25. Clock under 9.5 minutes remaining. 1 timeout left for Tennessee.
You know, Sean, as you line up and try to stop Florida, Doug Johnson's playing extremely well for a guy that's in his 3rd college game. You look at him. Then you go over at Jaquez Green, is so fast on the field. From up here, he looks like a rocket. And then you've got Jamie Richardson at wide receiver and Travis McGriff, who make plays for this team. A big offensive line, all back from last year. All those guys are back. And it's a hard team to get a fence on around it. They just have a lot of weapons.
Taylor looks very fresh here in the 4th quarter on this brutally hot day. Terry Fair made the tackle, but it's another first down for Florida. Any kind of a score would be damaging to Tennessee, but a touchdown would likely put this game out of reach for the Volunteers.
Well, Florida is a strong team. Tennessee's got to come up with at least a stop for a field goal here. It's absolutely critical for them to get their defense gathered and say, hey, guys, don't let them in the end zone. Give up a field goal. They've got good field position, but don't give them the 7 points.
They fake the reverse. It's Terry Jackson. Tripped up inside the 10 by Corey Gaines. And a flag down on the play. It was a gain of 7, but it's a holding call against Florida. We haven't seen many of those today. They've let them play in the trenches.
The left side of the Florida offensive line just comes off the ball and moves the Tennessee defense down, allowing the running back all kinds of daylight, Terry Jackson, to hit the hole. They're just dominating the line of scrimmage right now.
And clearly there was holding on that play, as we could see on the replay. Ryan Kalick had his hands around the head of one of the Tennessee defensive linemen. Clock is running. It'll be under 8 minutes when they snap the ball for the next play. "12-point lead for Florida. The Gators have not trailed in the game. Bo Carroll up the middle, chopped down inside the 20 of the 19 by Raynoch Thompson. Carroll's a true freshman from Norristown, Pennsylvania. Florida won the recruiting battle from Penn State, and Joe Paterno encountered Steve Spurrier in their travels, and Joe Paterno gave Steve some very good advice. He said, now before you just take the guy because of his size, 5'9", 166, and make him a defensive back or a wide receiver, let him run the ball. I think if you let him be a running back, you'll keep him at running back.
And Steve said once he saw him run the ball, he knew Papa Joe was right. He said that guy should be a running back.
Big rush, and Johnson did well to hang on to the ball. Fred White, a backup safety, came on a blitz and collected the 3rd sack of Doug Johnson by the Tennessee defense today. And now they might be moving back out of field goal range.
Tennessee is trying to bring as much heat as they can. Fred White comes from the right side of the screen on the blitz. He beats the offensive tackle, Zach Pillar, number 69. That's a hard athlete for a big old 350-pound tackle to try and block because he's so fast.
White's a sophomore from Griffin, Georgia. Gators in reverse at the moment, but they are chewing up all kinds of time on this drive. As the play clock was about to run out, Johnson used the last timeout for Florida. The Gators lead by 12. 6:31 remaining on CBS Sports. NASDAQ college football continues from the swamp. Sean McDonough with Terry Donahue and Michelle Tafoya. Big play here with 6.5 minutes remaining in regulation time.
Sean, don't be surprised. Steve Spurrier hasn't thrown the ball much to the tight end today. Don't be surprised if all of a sudden the tight end becomes a factor.
3rd and 25 from just inside the 30-yard line. Johnson with plenty of time. Down the middle, the tight end Touchdown! They signaled touchdown as the ball came out. Taurus Ross with the reception and the TD for Florida.
Taurus Ross just runs right down the middle of the field. Steve Spurrier puts 2 wide receivers out to the wide side, then has the tight end just race up the middle of the seam of the defense, and Doug Johnson delivers the ball. Ross catches it, touchdown before it's knocked out. He crossed the plane, a good call by the official.
No question, Fred White knocked it out, but it was too late. Collins Cooper for the extra point. Great drive by Florida. And they score the touchdown on a 3rd and 25. 30-yard touchdown reception for Taurus Ross, just his 2nd catch of the year, his 1st touchdown of the season for the senior from Dade City, Florida.
What you have to remember is in college football, the ball just needs to break the plane of the end zone. If that ball crosses the plane, he has it now. If that ball is across the plane, it's a touchdown. Clearly a good call. Let's watch and see if he breaks the plane. That's the key mark.
And he clearly had possession. Both feet came down with the ball in his hands. He was not juggling it. No question about possession. And he was in the end zone. It's a touchdown. Doug Johnson's 3rd touchdown pass of the day. He's thrown 2 interceptions. He's 14 of 31 for 261 yards. Brilliant drive. The kind that great teams make in situations such as these. Time consuming. 5:31, 77 yards, 9 plays. Dwayne Goodrich back deep. Mark Levine had been running back kickoffs, but it's Goodrich. 33-14 Florida. Tennessee up against it in a huge way now. Stevenson called upon to make the tackle. He slowed him down. Goodrich fighting for every yard. Finally goes down at the 46, and there's a late flag thrown right where the tackle was made. Steve Spurrier trying to help the officials. He's about 2 yards out on the field. 40 yards on the return, but will it come back for an illegal block?
In the back during the run back, 10-yard penalty, first down.
Well, that was a needless penalty. Goodrich wasn't going any further, and it was actually thrown while the tackle was being made and ahead of the play.
Sean, this is where Tennessee now, they've got to keep their poise. They don't want to come up. They have a long season ahead of them. They're playing one of the best teams in the country. They can become a great team themselves before the year's over. They need to put together a drive, protect their quarterback. Don't let this quarterback, Peyton Manning, take a beating any more than he already has here at the Swamp.
Tremendous noise as Manning throws, and that's been a recurring theme. Receiver expecting one thing, Manning thinking the other. Benji Schuler at the ball, drift behind him. Today's aerial shots are being provided by the Bud One Airship, which reminds you that fresh beer tastes better. And it looks as though the beer is going to taste particularly good here in the state of Florida tonight. And there might be 1 or 2 Budweisers consumed here in Gainesville. Manning is just better than 50% for the day. He swings it out for Sean Bryson. 2 defenders there. Nowhere to go all day long for the Tennessee offense. Tony George and Fred Weary have both been standouts today, and they combine to make the play on Bryson.
You know, we said that the team that was going to run the ball the best historically, traditionally in this game is the team that wins. And you go ahead and look at this number right down there. That tells a lot of the story.
And Tennessee had the edge at halftime. They are in a must-throw situation now. That play will not yield the first down. Levine gang tackled, and they have to go for it now on 4th down. Do you think Tennessee made enough of an effort to run? I mean, after a while it seemed like the running plays were virtually non-existent while it was still a game.
Sean, I think that the storyline here is that the Tennessee wide receivers had a very, very difficult time getting off bump coverage, and the Tennessee offensive line couldn't block the Florida defensive line.
We welcome you back live to Ben Hill Griffin Stadium in Gainesville. Florida has led throughout, and the Gators lead by 19. We had one upset today. Out in Seattle, Nebraska defeated Washington by 13 on 4th down. Manning goes down. Florida takes over on downs. Thaddeus Bullard and Keith Kelsey combining on the sack.
First, it's Thaddeus Bullard from the left side of the screen. Here he puts the pressure on Peyton Manning with a tremendous pass rush, and then Manning is swarmed under by Keith Kelsey, number 41. This has been the story all day long. The ferocious rush of the Florida defense.
Flags fly as Johnson moved under center. Was not for the expiration of the play clock, at least not the one that we can see in the right corner of the end zone.
Have a dead ball, illegal substitution, 5-yard penalty on the offensive team.
Florida had 12 men on the field. Sean couldn't get him off. Finally, they ran a guy off late, and they called a substitution problem on him.
Well, it has seemed as though they've had 12 men on the field on defense all day. Under 5 minutes remaining. Florida in control. A toss back to Taylor. And he didn't get all of the penalty yardage back. He's down at the 43-yard line. Manning 25 of 47 today for 293 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, one of which was returned for a Florida touchdown. But he was under attack all day long, hurried 19 times, knocked down 14. They only sacked him twice. Peyton got rid of the ball more often than not. He had one batted down to the key spot. And Taylor goes down in the arms of Sean Ellis, a sophomore from Anderson, South Carolina. Let's head down to the sideline once again. Here's Michelle Tafoya.
All right, guys. Well, this is 78 pages worth of legalese that makes Steve Spurrier the highest paid coach in college football. This is the contract. It was signed September 8th. It takes him through January 31st, 2003. Here are some of the bullet points. It averages about $2 million per year. This year, his base salary, though, is just over $168,000. The deal also includes 24 home tickets for each game, cars for him and his wife Jerry, and a $50,000 bonus if he wins the national title. $950,000 each year for equipment and apparel contracts. Terry, why'd you get out of the business?
Hey, Michelle, they never, ever offered me anything like that. I would have stayed in it.
Oh, your contract at UCLA wasn't 78 pages. What was it? Drawn on a napkin?
Hey, we could do that one on a couple pages, trust me. But, you know, Steve Spurrier, a lot of people would be critical of that contract across the country. But reality is this guy has built one of the most dynamic programs in the country. When you look at the number of people in this stadium, the pride that the University of Florida has in their football program and all of their sports teams, he's done a marvelous job. No one in the 90s can be compared with this guy.
Foul. unsportsmanlike conduct against the offensive team, 15 yards, 4th down.
Well, that'll bring it back, and it won't please Spurrier. So you agree, as I do, that Steve Spurrier is the best coach in the college game right now?
Well, what I'm saying, Sean, there's a lot of great coaches.
You don't want to upset 112 or so others.
I'm not going to say that, because there are a lot of great coaches. You look at Tom Osborne. Look at the big win he had today up there in Seattle, and he's got all kinds of wins and a great winning percentage. You look at Joe Paterno. I don't know who the best is, but Steve Spurrier, the job that he's done in the 90s in the SEC is astonishing to me with the parity in college football.
You almost got yourself off the spot. I'm going to pose another question to you. Robbie Stevenson, a shank that time off the side of his foot, out of bounds at the 40. You are an athletic director. You can hire any coach in the country to run your program.
Boy, I thought we were partners. I thought we were buddies.
I'll take Steve Spurrier. And admittedly, he can rub some people the wrong way. He's been referred to as Steve Superior. He comes across as a little bit cocky sometimes. He is cocky. I think he would admit that.
Well, I don't think you know what? I don't think he'd say he's cocky. I think Steve Spurrier is a perfectionist, number one. Here he is steaming on the sideline, in control of the game, 33-14, because the last series of plays didn't go right for him. I think he's supremely confident. Cocky, I don't know.
Pass thrown to Bryson. Well, I will grant you that then. But I would say there's not much of a line between supremely confident and cocky. Hey, I'll give you supremely confident.
I'm just the analyst. You're the play-by-play guy. I give in.
You're begging for Jim Nantz to come back now. 3:06 remaining. Tennessee to the 47-yard line of Florida. Desperation time for Peyton Manning in the offense. That's Marcus Nash. Trying to get outside, he could not. Tony George with another tackle. It's a first down for Tennessee at the 35. The road ahead for Florida. They're at Kentucky next week on CBS Sports. Then Arkansas comes here. They're at LSU. That'll be a very tough ball game. At Auburn, another tough tilt. Tennessee does not play LSU or Auburn this year. Good pass. Andy McCullough the catch. First down Tennessee at the 16. And the schedule concludes with the annual battle with Georgia. Vanderbilt at home at South Carolina, and another CBS game to close out the regular season. Florida State here in the Swamp. Meanwhile, the Volunteers have 4 of their next 5 at home. The one road game during that stretch is at Alabama. No timeouts left for Tennessee. No time left on this pass. It's a touchdown to Cedric Wilson, the true freshman, with his first touchdown as a Tennessee Volunteer.
If there's been one thing that has attacked the Florida defense today, it's the inside routes. Cedric Wilson, 14, runs a post. He runs an inside route that allows Manning to throw the ball and put it where he wants to. That's been an effective play for him. He'll run down the field and take it to the inside. Those are the zones or the areas of the defense that have been vulnerable today. He's open, and Manning puts the ball where he needs to.
They're going to go for 2, as you might expect. They're down by 13 at the moment, trying to make it an 11-point game. Ball placed on the left hash mark at the request of the Volunteers. Manning managed to get away from Beauchamp. Now he throws to the end zone, incomplete, over the head of Peerless Price, who wanted a flag. Elijah Williams had the coverage. We'll return to this game in just a moment. Well, another tough day for Smokey against the Florida Gators. Still hopes for a miracle for the Volunteers as they line up for an onside kick. Peyton Manning, we mentioned the articles written nationally that suggest that somehow his legacy is going to be diminished if he can't beat Florida. Well, I think he's still a great player, Terry, and he didn't have a good enough cast around him. The other guys are better.
I agree with that, Sean. I really do. This is an outstanding Florida team. Peyton Manning, hey, he threw 2 interceptions, but that happens to great quarterbacks. They throw some picks. That's the way it goes sometimes. But I'll tell you one thing, he's still going to be a tremendous pro player and certainly one of the real top candidates for the Heisman Trophy. If he doesn't win it, I don't know right now who has taken the lead away from Peyton Manning.
Perhaps in the minds of some voters, this brings the rest of the pack back into it. They had a shot at that onside kick. It bounced around, hung in the air for a while, but went out of bounds, and Florida will take it near midfield. I think the one thing we've seen last year and this year, particularly against Florida, for a great team like Tennessee, or at least a very good team, one of the top teams in college football, the offensive line is ordinary.
It is not as good as some of the traditional lines. It's improved over a year ago. I think substantially improved from what it was a year ago, but it wasn't up to the matchup today against this Florida defensive front. The speed of the Florida linebackers and those two inside tackles, Mike Moten and Ed Chester, boy, did they influence this game.
Johnson takes a knee and then gets shoved. Took a push from Ron Green, who was a starter last year. Now he's a reserve defensive lineman.
Ron Green, I don't think Ron Green really realized that the quarterback was going to take a knee there. It just was, you know, he dropped so deep before he took the knee. I think it was just a reaction. I don't think it was an unsportsmanlike act on Ron Green's part. I really don't.
Second down and 18. Florida State has taken the lead from Clemson. Iowa running up all kinds of points every week, it seems. And Temple trying to pull off another upset. They already have a win against BC. Stanford in a battle. Syracuse could really use a win. Ticking down toward 1 minute remaining. Florida on its way to a 3-0 start. This will be the first loss of the season for Tennessee. The Vols will fall to 2-1. And Peyton Manning will finish his career without a victory over Florida. And Johnson goes down again. There is a flag. The executive producer of CBS Sports is Terry Ewert. The coordinating producer of NASDAQ College Football is Craig Silver. Today's game was directed by Bob Fishman. The coordinating producer of College Football Today is Eric Mann. College Football Today was directed by Kathy Barretto. Sideline producer of our telecast, Steve Shear. Associate Director Jim Cornell. Broadcast associates are Steve Karasik and Noah Scheinman. Noah's a Florida graduate, probably smiling as we speak, but thanks to all those nice people for their great work and the rest of our technical crew. After the penalty, the ball at the 45-yard line of Florida. Not a great day statistically for Johnson, but I think the more you see him, the more you have to be impressed by him, Terry.
Well, I was certainly impressed with his poise and the way he handled certain situations, and he will go on to should become a great Florida quarterback. Steve Spurrier said he loves his poise. He likes his personality. He never gets too high. He doesn't get too low.
Well, in the Southeastern Conference, it's still a matter of everybody else trying to catch up to the Florida Gators. Tennessee has been the closest pursuer in recent years, but the Volunteers still have not made the move up to the level of the Gators. Final score 33-20. 5 wins in 5 years for Florida in this rivalry. Here's Michelle.
All right, Coach, 5 straight wins against Tennessee. Peyton Manning threw for over 350 yards, but with little consequence. How does your defense continue to dominate the balls?
Well, our defense played super the whole game. It was really not a well-played game by our offense, but somehow or another we hit a few big plays here and there. Doug Johnson, Quez Green, and then the last one there. But Tennessee was tough. They played very well. We were fortunate today, very fortunate.
You got an opportunity finally to see your new quarterback in action in a truly high-pressure situation. What kind of impression did he make?
Doug Johnson is he's a courageous young man. He loves to compete, and that's what gives him a chance to play so well. Our protection wasn't all that great today, but when he had a little time, he can throw it in there. But he loves to play the game, and that's why he's got a chance to really be a good one.
Congratulations, Coach.
Thank you, Michelle.
Sean?
Now for Terry Donahue and Michelle Tafoya, I'm Sean McDonough saying so long from Gainesville, where Florida has defeated Tennessee by a score of 33-20.